in the quiet moments of our lives, beneath the constant noise of the modern world, have you ever felt a gentle pull? An unseen current drawing you towards something more? It's not a loud demand, but a quiet hum, a persistent, inner knowing that there is a deeper truth to be experienced. A profound sense of peace and purpose that feels just out of reach. This longing is a universal human experience, a sacred quest that has been given many names throughout the ages. The search for God, for the universe, for a connection to something larger than ourselves. But where do we look for this connection? Traditionally, we have been taught to look outwards. We search for answers in ancient texts written by prophets long ago. We seek solace in the hallowed halls of magnificent buildings. Or we listen to the words of gurus on distant mountains. We gaze up at the heavens, hoping for a sign, a revelation from a powerful, external deity who resides somewhere far away from our daily lives. This external search, however, often leads to a sense of separation, a feeling of being small and distant from the very source we wish to find. It can foster a subtle frustration, a persistent question that echoes in the silent chambers of the heart. If God is everywhere, why is the connection so elusive? The problem, perhaps, is not with the object of our search, but with the direction in which we are looking. What if the grandest temple is not built of stone and glass, but of pure awareness? What if the most sacred scripture is not written in ink, but in the language of our own consciousness? What if God is not a being to be found, but is the very consciousness with which you are searching in this very moment? This lecture is an invitation to embark on such an inward journey, and our companion, our guide through this inner landscape, is the transformative power of the audiobook. This modern tool allows us to seamlessly integrate ancient wisdom into our busy lives, turning a daily commute, a household chore, or a quiet walk into a profound opportunity for spiritual growth. Together, we will explore the core messages of timeless audiobooks on the law of attraction, the power of the subconscious mind, and personal development, to finally lift the veil of illusion and discover the divine truth that has always been waiting patiently within you. To begin our journey, we must first approach the very foundation of our quest with gentle, open hands. We must be willing to examine the primary concept that has shaped our entire spiritual landscape, the very idea of God. For many of us, that word conjures a specific image, an archetype inherited from generations of art and scripture and storytelling. It is often the image of a person, a powerful, patriarchal figure seated on a celestial throne, a wise old king ruling the universe, a divine judge meticulously recording our rights and wrongs in a great book. This personified image has served a purpose, providing a symbol of order, morality, and ultimate authority in a chaotic world. It has been a focal point for devotion and a source of comfort for millions. But if we are to go deeper, if we are to discover the living truth rather than merely worship a symbol of it, we must recognize the profound limitations of this image. By giving God a human-like form and personality, we inadvertently place God outside of ourselves. We create a duality, a separation. There is God up there, and there is us down here. This creates an immediate dynamic of subject and object, of ruler and ruled, of perfect creator and flawed creation. This sense of separation is the root of so much spiritual anxiety. It fosters the feeling of unworthiness, the fear of judgment, and the endless striving to be good enough to earn divine favor. Furthermore, a personified God almost inevitably becomes a tribal God. My God becomes distinct from your God, and the beliefs surrounding my God become the one true way, setting the stage for conflict, for crusades, for the tragic illusion that we must defend an all-powerful being from the disbelief of others. This image, while perhaps once a helpful stepping stone, has now become a barrier, a gilded cage that limits our understanding of the truly infinite and all-encompassing nature of the divine. So let us, for the duration of our time together, gently set aside that image. Let us allow the throne to dissolve, the celestial courtroom to fade, and the bearded judge to recede into the mists of mythology. In its place, let us introduce a new, more expansive concept. Imagine God not as a being, but as being itself. Imagine the divine not as a person, but as a presence, an infinite, boundless field of pure consciousness that underlies, permeates, and constitutes all of reality. The most powerful metaphor for this is the ocean. Think of the universe as a vast, endless ocean of consciousness, silent, still, and full of infinite potential. Now, look at yourself. Look at every other person, every animal, every plant, every star, and every galaxy. We are not separate entities struggling to stay afloat in this ocean. We are the ocean itself, expressing itself in the form of temporary waves. A wave has a beginning and an end. It has a unique shape, a specific direction, and a temporary identity. It can be a gentle ripple or a towering tsunami. From the perspective of the surface, each wave appears to be a distinct and separate thing. But what is the fundamental substance of any wave? It is, and always has been, nothing but the ocean. The wave is not made of something different from the ocean. It is the ocean rising up to greet itself. For a brief moment, it has a unique form, but its essence is, and always will be, water. This is our relationship to this universal consciousness. Our bodies, our names, our personalities, our stories. These are the unique characteristics of our individual wave, but our essential nature, the very substance of our awareness, our I amness, is the consciousness of the entire ocean. You are not a drop of water in the ocean. You are the entire ocean expressing itself as a single drop. When you understand this, the entire paradigm of spirituality shifts. The goal is no longer to desperately paddle your little wave towards some distant, divine shore. The goal is simply to realize, in this very moment, that you are already the shore. You are the water. You are the entire ocean. The concepts of sin and separation dissolve. There is no original sin that has cast you out of paradise. There is only a temporary, original ignorance, a forgetfulness of your true nature. You have never been separate from God. You have only ever dreamed that you were. The wave can never be separate from the ocean, no matter how fiercely it crashes or how far it travels. Its connection is absolute and unbreakable because its very substance is the ocean. Our task, then, is not to build a bridge back to God, but to simply awaken to the fact that there was never a gap to begin with. This awakening sparks a profound shift, a movement away from a paradigm of belief and into a state of knowing. Belief is a function of the mind. It is a mental acceptance of a concept, an idea, or a dogma that is given to you by an external source. A book, a preacher, a tradition. Belief, by its very nature, implies a sliver of doubt. It requires faith precisely because it is not a direct, first-hand experience. You believe in something you have been told is true. Knowing, however, is a function of your entire being. It is a direct, unmediated, experiential realization of a truth. You do not need to believe that you are conscious. You know it directly. You do not need to believe that you are alive. You experience it in every breath. Our journey, therefore, is not about adopting a new set of beliefs. It is not a new religion. It is, in a sense, a form of spiritual science. The laboratory is your own consciousness. The subject of study is your own awareness. The great experiment is to turn your attention away from the distractions of the world and to investigate the nature of the one who is aware. This path does not ask you to discard any religious tradition you may hold dear. On the contrary, it invites you to discover the living, beating heart of mystical truth that lies hidden within all of them. The great mystics of every tradition, the Sufis of Islam, the Kabbalists of Judaism, the Gnostics of Christianity, the masters of Zen and Tao, all ultimately pointed to this same singular reality, the perennial philosophy that the kingdom of God is within you, that Atman, the individual soul, is one with Brahman, the universal spirit. This idea that reality is a unified field of consciousness might sound like abstract mysticism. Yet, it is fascinating to see how our most advanced modern science is beginning to echo these ancient truths. For centuries, classical physics viewed the universe as a great machine made of tiny, separate building blocks called atoms, a predictable world of cause and effect. But in the last century, the journey into the quantum realm has shattered this simplistic view. Quantum physics tells us that at the subatomic level, the very building blocks of our reality do not exist as solid, definite things. They exist as waves of probability, as pure potential, until the moment they are observed. The observer, the act of consciousness itself, seems to be inextricably linked with the creation of reality from this field of potential. This is the famous observer effect. It suggests that consciousness is not just a random byproduct of a dead, mechanical universe, but is somehow fundamental to its very structure. Furthermore, physicists discovered a phenomenon so strange that Einstein himself called it spooky action at a distance. It is called quantum entanglement. It shows that two particles, once linked, can be separated by vast distances, even across the galaxy, and they remain connected in a mysterious way. If you measure a property of one particle, the corresponding property of the other particle instantly changes to match it, faster than the speed of light. This is a profound scientific hint that our perception of separation is a grand illusion at a fundamental, hidden level. Everything in the universe is intimately and instantly connected. This doesn't prove the mystics were right, but it shows that the old model of a fragmented, mechanical universe is dying. Our most rigorous science is now pointing toward a holistic, interconnected, and participatory reality. A universe that looks less like a great machine and more like a great, conscious thought. The wisdom of ancient sages like Lao Tzu, who spoke of the seamless Tao, and the insights of modern physicists exploring the quantum field are beginning to sing in harmony. So we have taken our first crucial step. We have gently moved our idea of God from a separate, personified being out there to an all-pervading, universal consciousness in here and everywhere. We have reframed our relationship to this consciousness not as a flawed creature seeking a distant creator, but as a wave awakening to its own oceanic nature. We see that this is not a New Age fantasy, but a timeless truth echoed in both ancient wisdom and the frontiers of modern science. The foundation is now set, but a foundation is only the beginning of a building. Now that we have redefined God as this universal consciousness, this boundless ocean of being, the essential question arises: how do they, as individual waves, consciously and consistently experience our connection to the whole ocean? If the divine is not in the sky, but is the very fabric of our being, where is the door? Where is the gateway to this direct personal knowing? Having established that God is not a distant being, but an all-pervading field of universal consciousness, our quest shifts from an external search to an internal discovery. The question we are left with is profound. How do we access this infinite ocean of being? Where is the gateway? The answer is at once astonishingly simple and deeply transformative. The gateway is not in a faraway galaxy, a sacred temple, or an ancient text. The gateway has been with you every second of your life. It is the very faculty of awareness you are using to hear these words and to think your thoughts. The gateway is your own consciousness. However, to pass through this gate, we must first learn to distinguish it from the fence that surrounds it. We must understand the critical difference between the mind and consciousness itself. For most of us, these two are completely entangled. We live our lives believing we are our minds. But this is a fundamental misunderstanding. Imagine a river. The mind is the water that flows within it. It is the ceaseless current of thoughts, memories, images, plans, worries, and daydreams. It carries the debris of past regrets and the anxieties about future shores. The mind is active, noisy, and constantly in motion. A torrent of mental content that rarely, if ever, ceases. Now, imagine the riverbed. The riverbed is the silent, still, and unmoving space that contains the river. It does not judge the water. It does not get swept away by the current. And it is not affected by the turbulence on the surface. It simply is. It is the space that allows the river to be a river. Consciousness is this riverbed. It is the silent, spacious awareness within which the entire drama of your mind unfolds. For most of our lives, we are completely identified with the water. We believe we are the current. We are tossed and turned by every thought, snagged on every memory, and carried helplessly toward the waterfall of our anxieties. We are so absorbed in the movement of the water that we are completely unaware of the vast, stable, and peaceful ground of our own being. The silent riverbed. That is our true nature. The first step through the gateway, then, is to realize you are not the river. You are the riverbed. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness of your thoughts. This realization is the key. But how do we apply it? The access point is always and only in the present moment. Your mind, the river of thought, very rarely wants to be in the present. It is a time-traveling machine, constantly pulling your attention into the past or projecting it into the future. The past exists only as a collection of thoughts, of memories that you are having right now. Regret, guilt, and nostalgia are ghosts that haunt the present moment. The future exists only as a collection of thoughts, of projections that you are also having right now. Anxiety, worry, and anticipation are phantoms of a time that has not yet come. The unobserved mind traps us in these psychological phantoms, draining our life force by preventing us from inhabiting the only point of reality that ever truly exists, the eternal now. As the spiritual teacher Eckhart Tolle so powerfully explains in his audiobooks, the present moment is the portal. It is the only place where the turbulent river of thought can begin to settle, allowing us to sense the stillness of the riverbed beneath. When you bring your full and undivided attention to this moment, the mind's compulsive narrative begins to falter. In the gap between two thoughts, in the silent pause, you can feel it. A sense of presence, a vibrant stillness, an aliveness that is independent of any story. This is the feeling of consciousness itself, pure and unfiltered by the mind. This is you, touching the gateway. This consciousness, this aliveness, is not exclusive to you. It is the universal common ground of all existence. This is a radical shift in perspective that dissolves arrogance and fosters a deep reverence for life. Look at a tree reaching its branches toward the sun. What is that impulse? It is a form of consciousness. It is the universal intelligence expressing itself as the desire to grow and flourish. Watch a spider meticulously weave its web. What is that intricate, innate knowledge? It is another expression of consciousness. The consciousness in a human being may be more complex, capable of self-reflection, of art, of philosophy. But the fundamental substance of that awareness is the same substance that animates the flower, the bird, and the star. Think of it like electricity. The same single source of electricity can power a tiny, dim nightlight, a brilliant stage spotlight, and a vastly complex supercomputer. The electricity itself is one and the same. Only its manifestation, its level of expression, is different. In the same way, the consciousness that looks out through your eyes is the same consciousness that looks out through the eyes of every other sentient being. It is the same silent intelligence that guides the migration of birds and the orbit of planets. When we realize this, the illusion of our superiority and separation begins to crumble. We see that we are not a conscious being in a dead universe, but a focal point of awareness within a universe that is, in its entirety, conscious and alive. We are all expressions of the one life, and our personal consciousness is our unique window onto that universal reality. So how do we practice this? How do we move from a theoretical understanding to a lived experience? The practice is not about trying to forcefully stop the river of your thoughts, an effort which is not only futile but creates more inner conflict. The practice is simply about shifting your attention from the water to the riverbed. It is the simple, gentle art of noticing. You can begin right now. Bring your awareness to your breath. Don't try to change it or control it. Just feel the physical sensation of the air entering your nostrils, filling your lungs, and then being released. Follow one full breath from its beginning to its end. In that moment of focused attention, the chattering mind recedes into the background. You have stepped, for a second, into the now. You have touched the gateway. Another powerful practice is to bring your awareness into your inner body. Close your eyes for a moment and see if you can feel the subtle sensation of aliveness inside your hands. It might feel like a tingling, a warmth, or a faint vibration. There is no need to imagine anything. I just feel what is already there. By placing your attention inside the body, you draw energy away from the compulsive thinking of the mind and anchor yourself in the direct, felt reality of your being. You can also use your sense of hearing as an anchor. Simply listen. Listen to all the sounds in your environment without labeling them. Don't think that is a car. That is a fan. That is a dog barking. Instead, listen to the texture of the sound itself, the pure vibration hitting your eardrums. In this state of open, non-judgmental listening, you become pure awareness, a silent space in which the symphony of the world can unfold. The goal of these simple practices is not to achieve a perfectly silent mind. The goal is to realize that you are not the noise. As you practice, you will still have thoughts, but you will begin to notice them from a new perspective. You will see a thought arise, and you will recognize it simply as a thought, rather than getting swept away by its content. You will see an emotion arise, and you will recognize it as a feeling, without becoming the feeling itself. You are creating space. You are shifting your identity from the content of your mind to the conscious space in which that content appears. You are moving from the water to the riverbed. This practice is the key that turns the lock. Your personal consciousness. This faculty of simple, present moment awareness is the aperture through which the light of universal consciousness can shine. It is the sacred space where the wave remembers it is the ocean. By learning to distinguish consciousness from the mind, by using the portal of the present moment, by recognizing awareness as the common ground of all life, and by engaging in simple practices of noticing, you are not creating anything new. You are simply clearing the dust and debris from a gateway that has always been open, waiting for you to notice it. And as you become more adept at resting in this silent, spacious awareness, a new and even more profound question naturally begins to form. As you stand at this gateway, watching the movie of the mind without being in the movie, you begin to wonder, if I am the space and not the thoughts, if I am the stillness and not the noise, then who is this I that is aware of it all? Who is the silent witness standing at the threshold, watching everything unfold? We stand now at the threshold of the gateway. Having recognized that our own consciousness is the sacred space we have been seeking, we have learned to distinguish the noisy, flowing river of the mind from the silent, steadfast riverbed of awareness. And as we stand here, a question of identity arises. Who is this one that is aware? Who is the watcher? The answer introduces us to the most intimate and powerful aspect of our being. This is the observer, the silent witness, the seer. Think of it as the still point at the center of a spinning wheel, the screen upon which the movie of your life is projected. This observer is the timeless, formless subject, and everything else, absolutely everything you can experience, is a temporary object of its perception. The journey into this realization is a process of radical disidentification. It requires us to gently and lovingly let go of our attachment to everything we have been taught to believe we are, in order to discover the unshakable truth of what we truly are. This process begins with the most persistent and turbulent objects of our awareness, our thoughts. Take a moment, right now, to notice a thought. It could be any thought at all. Perhaps you are thinking about the meaning of these words, or maybe a memory of yesterday just floated by, or a plan for later this evening. Do not judge the thought or try to push it away. Simply notice it. Now, ask yourself this crucial question. Who is it that noticed the thought? There was the thought itself, the object, and then there was the awareness of the thought, the subject. The very fact that you can observe your own thinking process is irrefutable proof that you are not your thoughts. If you were your thoughts, you would be lost inside them, unable to gain any perspective. You would be a character in the movie, completely unaware that you are in a movie. But you are not. You are the consciousness that is watching the screen. The thoughts are like clouds passing through the vast sky of your awareness. They arise, they linger, they change form, and they dissolve. But you, the sky, remain. To believe you are your thoughts is like believing the sky is the temporary storm cloud that passes through it. The practice, then, is to cultivate this perspective, to become the watcher of the mind rather than a prisoner of it. You sit back, and you watch the stream of thoughts flow by without diving into it. You are the silent audience to the mind's performance. This creates the first taste of true freedom, a space between you and the ceaseless mental chatter. Next, we apply this same powerful principle to our emotions. Emotions are even more compelling than thoughts. They are thoughts with a powerful physical charge, capable of completely hijacking our sense of self. When a wave of anger, sadness, or fear washes over us, our language reflects our identification with it. We say, "I am angry," "I am sad." We fuse our identity completely with the transient emotional state. But let us investigate this with the same clear-eyed awareness. Is it not more precise to say, "I am aware of a powerful energy of anger arising within me"? The emotion is an experience that is happening to you, but it is not the totality of you. Think of your emotions as weather systems. A day can be stormy, with thunder and lightning. Another can be calm and sunny. Another can be foggy and gray. But you are not the weather. You are the space in which all weather occurs. The most intense hurricane of rage eventually passes. The deepest fog of sorrow eventually lifts. The most brilliant sunshine of joy may fade into twilight. But you, the consciousness that experiences all of these states, were present before the emotion arrived. You are present during its intensity, and you will be present long after it has subsided. Your awareness is the constant. The emotion is the variable. When you realize this, you no longer need to be afraid of your emotions. You can allow yourself to feel them fully, to honor their energy as messengers. Without giving them the power to define you, you can let the storm rage, knowing that you are the vast, unbreakable sky, not the fleeting storm. Now we come to the most fundamental identification of all, the body. We are taught from birth that we are our bodies. We point to our chest and say, "Me." We invest enormous energy in maintaining, shaping, and defending this physical form. It is our vehicle in this world, our primary instrument of experience, and it deserves care and respect. But are you the body? Let's use our faculty of observation. Think of your body as it was 15 years ago. It was composed of almost entirely different cells. It looked different. It felt different. Think of your body when you were a small child. It was a completely different structure. Yet, through all these radical physical changes, what has remained constant? The sense of I, the feeling of being, the silent awareness that you exist, has been the single, unbroken thread running through your entire life. The body is something your awareness illuminates, something you inhabit, but it is not the source of your awareness. The body is an object of your perception. You can feel a sensation of pain in your hand, which means you, the observer, are perceiving the pain, and are therefore not the pain itself, nor the hand. You see a reflection in a mirror, which means you, the seer, are not the image you see. The body is a magnificent, intricate, and temporary vessel. But your true nature as the silent witness is formless, timeless, and not confined to the physical structure. You have a body, but you are not your body. The great spiritual teachers throughout history have used a beautiful and simple analogy to capture this profound truth. They speak of the sky and the clouds, an image used powerfully by thinkers like Jiddu Krishnamurti. The thoughts, the emotions, the bodily sensations, the external events of your life, all of these are the clouds. They are in constant flux. They are born from nothing. They take on countless shapes and colors. They drift across your awareness, and they dissolve back into nothing. Some are beautiful, white, and fluffy. Others are dark, heavy, and full of rain and lightning. From a limited perspective, one might think the clouds are all that exist. But what is the one constant element that allows for the entire spectacle of the clouds? It is the sky. The sky is your true nature as the observer, as pure consciousness. The sky is not affected by the content of the clouds. A dark storm cloud does not stain the sky. A brilliant sunset does not permanently color the sky. The sky is the vast, silent, open, and allowing space that makes the entire drama of the weather possible. Its nature is peace. Its essence is stillness. To realize that you are the sky, not the clouds, is the ultimate liberation. This is the profound peace that lies at the heart of the message of so many spiritual masters. From Ramana Maharshi in his ashram in India to the quiet teachings of Zen masters. When you are identified with the clouds, you are in a constant state of reaction. Your happiness depends on having pleasant, sunny clouds, and you live in fear of the dark, stormy ones. Your life becomes a desperate and exhausting attempt to control the weather, which is an impossible task. But when you shift your identity to the sky, everything changes. You don't have to fight the storms anymore. You can simply allow them to be. Knowing they cannot harm your true nature, you can experience the full spectrum of human life, the pain, the pleasure, the success, the failure with a new sense of equanimity and grace. The storm of a great loss may rage, but you remain the silent, peaceful sky that holds it. The brilliant sunshine of a great success may dawn, but you know that you are the changeless space that contains that light, not just the fleeting light itself. This is not a state of detached coldness. It is a state of profound, loving embrace. You are open to all of it, attached to none of it. This is the stable center of peace that the world cannot give and cannot take away. We have now traveled from the noisy marketplace of the mind into the silent temple of the observer. We have peeled back the layers of false identity, seeing that we are not our thoughts, not our emotions, and not even our physical bodies. We are the timeless, formless, spacious awareness that witnesses all of experience. the ever-present sky that allows the passage of every cloud. This recognition creates a clear and liberated space between the seer within and the transient scenes it observes. But this very liberation brings a new, even deeper question into focus. If my true self is this formless, space-like consciousness, what then is the actual boundary between the conscious space inside of me and the vast space of the universe outside of me? Where, precisely, does the observer that I am end, and the world that is observed begin? Is the fundamental line we draw between self and other between me and the universe, actually real? Or is that too just another cloud passing through the one undivided sky? Having journeyed to the still center of our being, identifying ourselves not with the passing clouds of thought and emotion but with the vast, open sky of the observer, we arrive at the final frontier of identity. We have established a space between the unchanging seer and the ever-changing scenes it witnesses. But now we must turn our attention to the very line we have drawn. What is this boundary we perceive between the witnessing consciousness inside us and the vast world it witnesses outside? We are about to investigate the most deeply ingrained assumption of our existence, the belief in a separate self, the entity we call me. We will discover that this separate self, the ego, is not a solid, continuous entity, but the most convincing illusion ever created. Let's first understand what this me, this ego, is actually made of. It is not a thing, but a process, a story woven together from a collection of thoughts. Its primary building blocks are memory and identification. The ego begins its construction in early childhood. We are given a name. We are told this is your body. We accumulate experiences, which become memories. We form beliefs, opinions, and preferences based on our upbringing and culture. We adopt roles and labels. I am a man, a woman, a parent, a child, an artist, a doctor, an American, a success, a failure. The ego is this bundle of thoughts, memories, and labels, stitched together to create a cohesive narrative of a separate individual moving through time. It is a mental construct, a psychological center of gravity that gives us a sense of continuity. It serves a practical purpose. It is a tool that helps us navigate the complexities of the social world. But the great tragedy of humanity is that we have mistaken the tool for the user. We have forgotten that we are the formless consciousness and have come to believe we are the limited story of me. The ego's primary function is to maintain and enhance its sense of separateness. And its favorite word is my. This single, two-letter word is the architect of the fortress of separation and the ultimate source of our suffering. Consider its power. My body creates anxiety about aging and illness. My possessions creates the fear of loss and the stress of acquisition. My accomplishments creates pride and the fear of failure. But the most volatile territory of all is my beliefs and my opinions. When someone challenges my opinion, the ego does not interpret it as a neutral discussion of differing ideas. It experiences it as a direct, personal attack on its very existence. The body tenses. The heart rate increases. The defensive walls go up. Why? Because the ego is nothing more than a collection of these beliefs. To challenge the belief is to threaten the very structure of the egoic self. This is why we see so much conflict in the world. From bitter family arguments over politics to devastating wars fought over my God versus your God, or my land versus your land. The ego needs opposition to feel real. It defines itself by its boundaries, by what it is not. It thrives on comparison, on being better than, smarter than, or more righteous than another. It is a life lived in a constant state of defense, competition, and insufficiency. A deeply exhausting and painful way to exist. This ingrained feeling of being a separate fragment in a disconnected world feels like common sense. But our own science is beginning to reveal a very different picture of reality, as we have touched upon. At the subatomic level, the universe does not appear to be a collection of tiny, separate things. It appears to be an unbroken, seamless web of energy and information. The space you perceive between your hand and the object it is about to touch is not empty. It is a vibrant, dynamic field of energy that connects you and the object. There is no actual line where you end and the world begins. There is only one continuous energy field that is vibrating at different frequencies to create the illusion of solidity and separateness. An elegant metaphor for this is the hologram. If you take a holographic plate and smash it into 100 pieces, each tiny piece does not contain a fragment of the original image. Each tiny piece contains a lower resolution version of the entire image. The whole is present in every part. This is a powerful scientific hint that we are not separate parts of the universe. We are each a localized expression of the entire universe. The cosmos is not something outside of you. You are the cosmos experiencing itself from a particular point of view. Perhaps you do not need a scientist or a mystic to tell you this. You have likely had your own direct experiences of this truth. Fleeting moments when the veil of separation became transparent and you glimpsed the underlying unity of all things. Think of a time you stood in nature, utterly captivated by its grandeur. Perhaps you were watching a sunset paint the sky with impossible colors, or standing at the edge of the ocean, feeling its immense power, or walking through a silent, ancient forest. In those moments of awe, what happens to the small, personal me, with all its anxieties and ambitions? It often dissolves. The sense of a separate self fades into the background, and there is only a feeling of being one with the magnificent scene before you. Or think of moments of deep, unconditional love, in a true embrace, in a moment of profound connection with another being. The boundaries between I and you can seem to melt away, leaving only a shared field of warmth and presence. This sense of oneness also appears in what is called a flow state. When an artist is lost in painting, a musician in playing, or an athlete in competing, the sense of a separate doer vanishes. There is no longer the thought, I am doing this. There is only the painting, the music, the game. These are not just pleasant psychological states. They are moments of grace when we awaken from the dream of separation and remember the reality of our unified being. There is a timeless story, retold in various forms by teachers of non-duality like Rupert Spira and Adyashanti, that perfectly illustrates this entire journey. It is the story of a single drop of water that has been lifted from the ocean and is now falling through the sky as rain. The drop is aware of itself as a separate entity. It has a profound sense of anxiety. It sees other drops and compares itself to them, feeling bigger or smaller, higher or lower. Its entire existence is defined by the fear of its own impending end. It knows it will soon hit the ground or the surface of the water, and it trembles at the thought of its own annihilation. Then, the moment comes. It splashes into the vast, blue expanse of the ocean. There is a moment of sheer terror as its boundaries dissolve. But then, in the instant after that terror, an incredible realization dawns. It has not been destroyed. It has simply come home. It recognizes that it was never just a tiny, separate drop. Its true nature was, and always has been, the entire, boundless ocean. The fear of death, the anxiety of comparison, the burden of its separate identity, all of it evaporates in the blissful peace of its own immensity. It was the ocean, all along, merely dreaming it was a drop. This story is your story. The ego is the fearful drop. Your true self is the magnificent ocean. The spiritual journey is not about the drop becoming something better. It is simply about the drop waking up to what it already is. We have now deconstructed the most tenacious illusion of all, the belief in a separate self. We have seen that the ego is a mental story, a collection of thoughts and memories, not a solid entity. We have understood how its mechanism of possessiveness, through the word my, is the root cause of conflict and suffering. We have found echoes of an undivided reality in the discoveries of science and recognized the truth of it in our own peak experiences of life. We have embraced the profound metaphor that we are the entire ocean of being, not just a fragile, separate drop. This realization changes everything. The world is no longer a collection of separate objects and competing others, but a seamless expression of a single, unified intelligence. This naturally leads us to our next field of inquiry. If we are not separate individuals but expressions of one consciousness, if we are all part of one great ocean of being, then how does this ocean operate? What are its fundamental principles? What is the invisible language it uses to communicate with itself? The very medium through which all of reality takes form. The answer is elegant and universal. It is the principle of vibration. Having awakened from the dream of the separate self, we now stand as the ocean of being, recognizing our fundamental unity with all that is. The world is no longer a collection of disconnected objects, but a single, living, breathing tapestry of consciousness. This profound realization invites a new question. If all is one, what is the nature of its movement? What is the underlying rhythm? The pulse beat of the cosmos. The answer lies in one of the most fundamental principles of existence, a truth known to ancient mystics and now confirmed by modern physics. The secret is vibration. Everything, from the densest rock to the most ethereal thought, is energy in a state of constant motion. Nothing is truly solid, and nothing is ever at rest. The entire universe is a vast, intricate, and perfectly harmonized symphony of vibration. And you are both a note within that symphony and the conductor of your own unique melody. To our limited sense, the world appears solid and stable. Look at the chair you are sitting on, or the floor beneath your feet. They seem dense, static, and unmoving. But this solidity is a magnificent illusion created by the limitations of our perception. If you could zoom in with a microscope of impossible power, past the molecules, down to the atoms, you would find something astonishing. You would see that an atom is over 99% empty space. At its center is a tiny nucleus, and spinning around it at unimaginable speeds are electrons. It is more like a miniature solar system than a solid particle. The appearance of solidity comes from the incredible speed of this vibration. Much like the blades of a spinning fan can appear as a solid, impenetrable disk. This is the secret behind Albert Einstein's famous equation, A equals mc squared. It tells us, in the elegant language of mathematics, that energy and matter are not different things, but different states of the same thing. Matter is simply energy, universal consciousness, that has slowed its vibration to a frequency so dense that it becomes perceptible to our five senses. Think of water, in its gaseous state, as steam. Its molecules are moving very fast and are far apart. As it cools, its vibration slows, and it becomes liquid water. Slow the vibration even further, and it becomes solid ice. Steam, water, and ice are all the same substance, H2O, just existing at different vibrational states, in the exact same way. The physical world you perceive is simply the ice of the universe, while your thoughts and feelings are its steam and water. It is all one substance, one consciousness, vibrating at different rates. Just as the spectrum of light contains everything from invisible infrared to visible colors to invisible ultraviolet, the spectrum of vibration contains every possible state of being. This spectrum can be understood as a great scale, a ladder of frequencies ranging from the very low to the very high. At the lowest end of the scale, we find the densest, heaviest, and most contracted energies. These are the vibrations that correspond to the most painful human emotions. States like shame, guilt, apathy, grief, and fear. When you are experiencing these emotions, How does it feel in your body? It feels heavy, tight, constricting. Your energy is low. Your posture may slump, and your outlook on life becomes dark. These are not moral failings. They are simply states of being where your life force is vibrating at a very low and slow frequency. As we move up the scale, the vibrations become faster, lighter, and more expansive. We move through anger and pride, into courage, and then into acceptance and reason. At the highest end of the spectrum, we find the most rapid and rarefied frequencies, the states of being that we all ultimately seek. These are the vibrations of love, joy, peace, and gratitude. How do these feel in your body? They feel light, open, and expansive. You feel full of energy, optimistic, and connected. You are vibrating in harmony with the natural, high frequency of source energy. This concept of a vibrational scale has been brilliantly mapped out in the modern era by teachers like Esther and Jerry Hicks, who channel the consciousness known as Abraham. Their work, particularly in audiobooks like Ask and It Is Given, presents what they call the emotional guidance scale. This scale is an invaluable tool for self-awareness. It shows us that our emotions are not random. They are direct indicators of our vibrational frequency in any given moment. They are our internal guidance system. The key insight is that you cannot jump from the bottom of the scale to the top in one leap. You cannot go from deep depression to ecstatic joy instantly. But you can, with conscious intent, reach for the next highest feeling thought, the next rung up the ladder. From apathy, you can reach for anger, which is a higher vibration. From anger, you can reach for blame. And from blame, you can reach for hope. It is a process of gently and consistently choosing thoughts and activities that make you feel even slightly better, thereby methodically raising your vibrational set point over time. This understanding of vibration is the true key to unlocking the much-discussed law of attraction. This law has often been oversimplified to mean if you think about a new car will appear. The reality is more subtle and far more profound. The law of attraction is simply the law of vibration in action. A more accurate name for it would be the law of resonance. The principle is simple. Everything in the universe responds to vibration. A classic example is the tuning fork. If you have two tuning forks that are tuned to the exact same note, say, middle C, and you strike one of them, something magical happens. The other tuning fork, even across the room, will begin to vibrate and hum in sympathy. It resonates with the frequency it recognizes. It will not, however, respond to a tuning fork tuned to F sharp. It is deaf to any frequency that does not match its own. You are a human tuning fork, constantly broadcasting a specific vibrational signal out into the universe. This signal is the sum total of your dominant thoughts, beliefs, and emotional states. The universe, which is made of the same vibrating energy, must, by an impartial and impersonal law, bring to you people, circumstances, and events that resonate with your broadcasted frequency. It is not a system of reward or punishment from a judgmental God. It is a law of physics. If your dominant vibration is one of gratitude, love, and abundance, the universe must orchestrate a reality that reflects that song back to you. If your dominant vibration is one of fear, lack, and resentment, the universe has no choice but to bring you more experiences that match that discordant note. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. So, if you are the broadcaster, the tuning fork, the musical instrument, how do you consciously tune yourself to a higher, more harmonious frequency? This is where spiritual practice becomes profoundly practical. You must become the conductor of your own energy. One of the most powerful and immediate ways to raise your vibration is through the practice of gratitude. Gratitude instantly shifts your focus from what is missing in your life to the abundance that is already present. This shift in focus is a shift in vibration. To spend just 5 minutes each morning listing things you are genuinely thankful for can recalibrate your entire energy for the day. Music is another powerful tool. Sound is vibration made audible. Listening to uplifting, harmonious music that resonates with joy and peace can directly entrain your body's cells to a higher frequency. Immersing yourself in nature is another method. The natural world, untouched by the frantic, low vibrations of human anxiety, resonates at a high, stable, and peaceful frequency. Walking barefoot on the earth, listening to the sound of the wind in the trees, or watching the ocean waves can cleanse and retune your energy field. And of course, practices like meditation and mindfulness are essential. They work by quieting the low-frequency chatter of the egoic mind, allowing your natural, high-frequency state of pure consciousness to emerge. Your body, your diet, the media you consume, the people you surround yourself with, all of these carry a vibrational charge that either raises or lowers your own. We have now established that the substance of the universe is consciousness, and the language of consciousness is vibration. We are not solid beings in a solid world, but vibrational beings in a vibrational universe, a symphony of interconnected frequencies. We understand that our emotional state is a direct indicator of our personal frequency on a vast scale from fear to love. And we know that through the immutable law of resonance, our personal frequency dictates the reality we experience. Most importantly, we have seen that we are not helpless victims of our vibration. We are empowered conductors with a host of tools to consciously tune our own instrument. This brings us to the very source of the music itself. We understand that vibration is the fundamental language, but what is the primary instrument within us that generates these vibrations? What is the origin point? The very first impulse of the signal that we broadcast to the cosmos, shaping our world moment by moment. The creative process begins in the most subtle and powerful realm of our being, the realm of thought, having grasped that we are vibrational beings in a vibrational universe. Our investigation now leads us to the very origin of our personal broadcast. We have learned that our frequency determines our reality. But what, precisely, determines our frequency? We now trace this power to its source, the most intimate and influential creative force we possess, the energy of our own thoughts. We have been taught to believe that our thoughts are private, passive, and inconsequential, that they are nothing more than random, meaningless chatter inside our own heads. This is perhaps the most profound misunderstanding that has kept humanity from its creative birthright. The truth is that your thoughts are not powerless. They are not private, and they are not passive. Each thought you think is a tangible pulse of energy, a living spark of creative potential, the very first brushstroke on the canvas of your life. They are the blueprints you send to the universal architect, the seeds from which the garden of your experience will grow. To understand this power, we must first see a thought for what it is, a real event. Every time you think a thought, a complex cascade of electrochemical reactions occurs within your brain, neuron fire, creating a measurable electrical impulse. This impulse generates a subtle but real energetic field. A single, fleeting thought is like a single drop of rain in a storm. Its individual impact is minimal. But what about the thoughts you think over and over and over again? What about your habitual worries, your cherished beliefs, your dominant assumptions about life? These repeated thoughts are no longer just single drops. They become a steady, powerful stream, a concentrated current of energy. This coherent stream of thought energy becomes a command, a clear and consistent request broadcasted into the unified field of consciousness. The universe, which operates on the principle of resonance and response, does not judge your command. It does not decide whether it is good or bad for you. It simply receives the signal you are transmitting and begins to orchestrate a reality that perfectly matches it. Habitual. Deeply felt thought of. Life is hard is a powerful command. Habitual. Deeply felt, thought of, I am always supported is an equally powerful command. The universal intelligence simply says yes to the dominant story you are telling with your thoughts. Your life today is largely the physical manifestation of your most dominant, repeated thoughts from your past. This creative process is governed by a simple, immutable law. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. Think of your conscious attention as a magnifying glass, and the infinite energy of the universe as the light of the sun. Whatever you hold under the lens of your focused attention, you are concentrating the creative fire of the universe upon it, causing it to expand and grow in your experience. Herein lies the most common and critical error in the process of deliberate creation. A personne mais désire more abondance. But they spend their days focusing their attention on the mountain of bills on their desk, on the rising cost of living, on the frustrating reality of their empty bank account. They are holding the magnifying glass of their attention firmly over the problem, over the lack of abundance. As a result, they pour their creative life force into energizing the very condition they wish to escape, and the universe dutifully responds by delivering more experiences of lack. The key is to withdraw your attention from the unwanted reality and place it firmly upon the desired one. This does not mean denying your current circumstances. It means refusing to give them your primary creative energy. Instead of focusing on the bills, you focus on the feeling of relief and freedom. Instead of focusing on the empty account, you focus on the feeling of security and generosity. You hold the magnifying glass over the solution, over the feeling of the wish already fulfilled. You are consciously directing the flow of universal energy away from the problem and toward its resolution. The great wisdom writer James Allen, in his timeless audiobook, As a Man Thinketh, provides us with the perfect analogy for this entire process. The mind is a fertile garden. This metaphor is profoundly accurate. You can be a lazy, unconscious gardener, allowing any random seed that blows in on the wind to take root. These seeds are the negative thoughts from the news, the fearful opinions of others, the cynical gossip of coworkers, the self-doubts that drift in from past failures. If you allow these seeds to land and you water them with your attention, your mental garden will soon be choked with the weeds of anxiety, resentment, and frustration, and you will look at your chaotic life and wonder why it is so. Alternatively, you can choose to be a conscious master gardener. A master gardener first prepares the soil, creating a calm and receptive mental state. Then, they consciously select the seeds they wish to plant: thoughts of health, of success, of love, of peace. They plant these seeds with intention. And then, most crucially, they tend to the garden diligently. When a weed of doubt or fear appears, they do not despair. They simply notice it without judgment and gently pull it, returning their focus to the seeds they have chosen. They water their chosen seeds daily with the sunlight of their focused attention and the nourishing water of belief. In time, their mental garden blossoms into a beautiful, harmonious, and abundant reality that precisely reflects their conscious intent. Your life is this garden. Your thoughts are the seeds. The choice to be a conscious gardener is yours in every moment. To become a master gardener, you must adopt what could be called a mental diet. We are often incredibly conscious of the food we put into our bodies, reading labels and choosing nutritious options. Yet, we allow our minds to consume a constant stream of low-vibrational junk food without a second thought. If you are serious about changing your life, you must become as selective about what you feed your mind as you are about what you feed your body. Consider the main sources of your mental diet. What media do you consume? Is the news you watch, the social media you scroll through, a constant parade of fear, conflict, division, and disaster? This is the vibrational equivalent of eating poison and expecting to be healthy. consciously choose to consume media that is inspiring, uplifting, and expansive. What books and podcasts do you listen to? Do they empower you and give you tools for growth? Or do they reinforce a sense of victimhood and hopelessness? And, most importantly, what are the conversations you participate in? Do you spend your precious energy with people who endlessly complain, gossip, and criticize? This is like sitting in a room filled with smoke. Even if you are not smoking, you will inevitably be affected. Seek out conversations that revolve around creative ideas, possibilities, solutions, and appreciation. This is not about burying your head in the sand or pretending problems don't exist. It is a conscious, strategic choice to nourish your mind with the high vibrational input that aligns with the reality you wish to inhabit. We can now see with absolute clarity that our thoughts are not innocent, ethereal things. They are the very architects of our vibrational state and, therefore, of our physical reality. Each thought is a command, a seed, a spark of pure creative energy. Where we place the powerful lens of our attention, we direct the flow of life. The quality of our thinking, cultivated like a garden and nourished by a conscious mental diet, inevitably determines the quality of our experience. This understanding is the key to moving from a life of reaction to a life of conscious creation. It places the artist's brush firmly back in your hand. The blueprint for your life is drawn first in the subtle realm of your mind. But a blueprint, a spark, is only the beginning. It is the electrical impulse, the initial design. For this blueprint to magnetize the building materials from the field of potential, for it to become a living, breathing experience, it requires a powerful amplifying force. It needs to be supercharged with the undeniable, magnetic power of feeling. A thought points the way, but it is emotion that fuels the journey. If our thoughts are the electric charge, the architectural blueprint for our reality, then our emotions are the powerful magnetic current that pulls that reality into being. A thought alone is a design, but an emotion is the energy that hires the construction crew and starts the work. Without the amplifying, magnetizing force of feeling, a thought remains a cold and sterile potential, a silent wish in an empty room. It is the fusion of thought and emotion that creates the potent electromagnetic signature that speaks to the quantum field, the language that rearranges energy into experience. Your emotions are your creative fuel, your inner powerhouse, and your most intimate and honest guidance system. They are the magnetic compass that both points the way to your desired destiny and draws the destiny toward you. Let us be very clear about this creative equation. Thought combined with emotion equals attraction. You can sit and repeat a positive affirmation 1,000 times. I am wealthy. I am wealthy. I am wealthy. But if, while you are saying these words, you are feeling the familiar ache of lack, the anxiety of your debts, the frustration of your current circumstances, then the universe is not listening to your words. It is responding to your feeling. It is responding to the magnetic charge. And the charge you are emitting is one of I am not wealthy. Your words are electric, but your feelings are magnetic. And the magnetic force is what ultimately governs attraction. The thought is the arrow, but the emotion is the force of the bow that sends it flying. Now, imagine this. You take that same thought, that same intention for wealth, but instead of repeating it mechanically, you take a moment to generate the actual feeling of abundance. You close your eyes and feel the deep sense of security that fills your chest. You feel the expansive joy of being able to provide for your loved ones without worry. You feel the delightful freedom of booking a trip you've always dreamed of. The quiet satisfaction of being generous. When you marinate your intention in these elevated emotions, the blueprint is no longer just a drawing. It becomes a living, breathing, magnetic vortex, a powerful signal that tells the universe, this is who I am now. A clear intention combined with a heartfelt, elevated emotion is the master command that calls forth new realities. because your emotions are such a powerful creative force. You have been given an infallible, built-in feedback system to let you know what you are creating in every moment. Your emotions are the needle on your vibrational compass. They are not a punishment or a reward. They are simply an indicator, a neutral, loving piece of feedback, telling you which direction your thoughts are pointing. When you are feeling good, when you experience emotions like passion, enthusiasm, joy, or even just a simple feeling of contentment, that is your inner guidance system telling you, yes, the thoughts you are currently thinking are in vibrational alignment with your true desires and your higher self. You are on the right track. Keep going. The good feeling is a confirmation that you are broadcasting a clear, powerful, and harmonious signal. Conversely, when you are feeling bad, when you are experiencing anxiety, frustration, jealousy, or despair, this is not a sign that you are a bad person or that you are doomed. It is simply a compassionate alarm bell. It is the needle on your compass swinging to say, warning, the thoughts you are currently focused on are out of alignment with who you truly are and what you truly want. Your current broadcast is attracting more experiences that will feel like this. It might be a good time to gently change the subject of your focus. If you can learn to see your negative emotions not as enemies to be suppressed, but as loving, helpful alerts from your guidance system, you can use them as a springboard for conscious change rather than a quicksand that pulls you under. This requires us to understand a crucial distinction: the difference between a pure emotion and a reactive emotional loop. A pure emotion is simply energy in motion. Emotion that rises in the body to deliver its message. If you simply allow it to be there without resistance, feeling its raw sensation, it will deliver its feedback and then naturally pass through you in a matter of minutes. An emotional reaction, however, is what happens when the ego latches onto that pure energy and begins to weave a story around it. For example, a wave of pure sadness might arise. That is the emotion. But then, the mind jumps in and creates a narrative. I am sad because I am worthless. I will always be alone. My life never works out. This is just like that other time I failed. This is the emotional reaction. This story, which is just a collection of thoughts, acts like fuel for the initial emotion, keeping you stuck in a low vibrational loop for hours, days, or even years. The practice of emotional mastery is not to deny the sadness, but to feel the raw energy of it in your body without believing the story the mind is telling you about it. When you do this, you honor the emotion's message without becoming a prisoner of its drama. This leads us to the most empowering principle of all. You do not have to wait for an external event to feel a positive emotion. You can learn to generate elevated emotions deliberately, becoming the cause of your own emotional state rather than a reactor to your environment. This is the core of the groundbreaking work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, who masterfully blends neuroscience with spiritual wisdom. He explains that most people live by the classical, Newtonian model of reality. They are waiting for an outer event to change their inner state. When I get the promotion, then I will feel successful. When I find the perfect partner, then I will feel loved. When I win the lottery, then I will feel abundant. This is living as a victim of circumstance, constantly waiting for the world to give you permission to feel good. The quantum model of creation flips this entire process on its head. It says you must feel successful before the promotion arrives. You must feel loved before the partner appears. You must feel abundant before the money shows up. You must generate the elevated emotion first. And that feeling, that new magnetic signature, is what will attract the corresponding event. Dr. Dispenza teaches that when you combine a clear intention with an elevated emotion, you are doing more than just wishful thinking. You are performing a biological and energetic upgrade by repeatedly generating the feelings of your future reality. You are firing new neural networks in your brain. literally rewiring it to look like the brain of the future you. You are sending new signals to your genes, activating epigenetic changes. You are changing your body's chemistry, moving from the stress hormones of survival to the blissful neurochemicals of creation. You are, in a very real sense, becoming your future self on a biological level before it has physically manifested. You are rehearsing your future so powerfully that your body believes it is already happening. And when your mind and body are in this new state of being, and you collapse time and begin to draw that future to you like a powerful magnet. Let's try it. Bring to mind something you truly desire. Now, go beyond just visualizing it. Ask yourself, what is the emotion I would feel if this were my reality right now? Would it be overwhelming gratitude, a profound sense of peace, a feeling of utter freedom, unshakable empowerment? Choose one. And for the next minute, I'll generate that feeling in your body. Breathe into your heart center and amplify that feeling until it is all you know. Let every cell in your body become alive with the feeling of your wish fulfilled. You are now broadcasting your future from the present. We now understand that emotion is not a mere byproduct of our experience. It is the very fuel of creation. It is the magnetic force that combines with the electric spark of our thoughts to form the powerful signal that shapes our world. It is our infallible compass, guiding us toward or away from our desires with every feeling we feel. And most importantly, it is a power we can learn to wield with conscious intent, generating the feelings of our desired future in the present moment to become the deliberate creators of our own destiny. We have now explored the conscious powers of thought and feeling, the 5% of our mind that we operate with during our waking day. But this begs a vital question. What about the other 95%? What about the vast, mysterious, and incredibly powerful engine that runs our bodily functions, stores our deepest beliefs, and executes our habitual programs without our conscious input? What about the hidden architect who is tirelessly building our reality based on blueprints we may not even know we have? It is time to venture into the deep waters of the subconscious mind. We have explored the conscious forces of creation, the electric power of our thoughts, and the magnetic power of our emotions. This is the domain of the 5% of our mind that we are aware of, the tip of the iceberg that is visible above the water. But now, we must take a deep breath and dive beneath the surface, into the vast, mysterious, and powerful realm that constitutes the other 95% of our being. We are entering the domain of the subconscious mind. This is the hidden architect of your life. It is the faithful, unquestioning servant that carries out the programs it has been given. It is the vast storehouse of every experience, belief, and emotion you have ever had. It is the hard drive of your soul. It tirelessly runs the complex machinery of your body, from your heartbeat to your breathing. And it executes the habitual programs that govern the vast majority of your actions and reactions. Until you learn to work in harmony with this hidden architect, your conscious efforts to change will feel like an endless, uphill battle, like trying to shout new orders at a ship whose course was set long ago. The most effective way to understand the relationship between your conscious and subconscious minds is the analogy of the captain and the crew of a great ship. Your conscious mind is the captain. The captain stands on the bridge, consults the maps, and decides on the destination. The captain has willpower and the ability to give orders. He shouts, "We are sailing to the island of abundance. Steer west." This is your conscious desire, your New Year's resolution, your decision to be more confident, healthy, or prosperous. Now, the subconscious mind is the crew. The crew lives deep in the ship, in the engine room, and at the helm. They don't see the map. They don't know the ultimate destination. And they do not question orders. They are immensely powerful, and their job is to simply follow their training, to run the ship according to the procedures that have been drilled into them day after day, year after year. Here is the problem. Your crew, your subconscious mind, was largely trained during your childhood. from the ages of 0 to 7. During that time, it may have been programmed with beliefs like, money is the root of all evil. You have to work incredibly hard to get by. Or be careful. The world is a dangerous place. So, while the conscious captain is on the bridge shouting, steer west toward abundance, the loyal, powerful, and impeccably trained crew, following their deep, ingrained programming, automatically and efficiently steers the ship east towards struggle and scarcity. The captain becomes exhausted and frustrated, wondering, why am I trying so hard and getting nowhere? It's because his 5% of conscious willpower is pitted against the 95% of the subconscious crew's automated power. The crew always wins. True change does not come from shouting louder. It comes from going down into the engine room and retraining the crew. To retrain the crew, we must speak their language. The subconscious mind is not a logical, analytical entity like the conscious mind. It is the primal, feeling mind. Trying to convince it with logic and reason is like trying to teach calculus to a dog. It simply doesn't compute. The subconscious has its own distinct language. And if you wish to communicate with it, you must use it. Firstly, the subconscious speaks in feelings. It is the seat of your emotions. An idea or an affirmation without any emotional charge is just noise to the subconscious. It is the feeling of a thing being true that impresses it. Secondly, it speaks in images. It is the mind of dreams, of symbols, of vivid pictures. This is why visualization is one of the most powerful tools for reprogramming. A clear, detailed mental image is a direct instruction in a language the subconscious perfectly understands. Thirdly, its primary learning method is repetition, just like learning to ride a bike or play the piano. The repetition of an action, a thought, or a feeling carves a pathway in the mind, a neural groove. Do it enough times, and it becomes an automatic program. A new belief is installed in the same way, through consistent, dedicated repetition. So, how do we put this all together to consciously overwrite the old, limiting programs that are holding us back? The key is to access the subconscious mind when it is most receptive. The analytical conscious mind acts like a guardian at the gate, filtering new information and comparing it to existing beliefs. You want to tell me I'm abundant, it says, but the bank account says otherwise. Access denied. This guardian, however, tends to relax and fall asleep when we are deeply relaxed. This happens when our brainwaves slow down from the active beta state to the light, meditative alpha state, and the even deeper, dreamlike theta state. These states, which we naturally pass through every night as we fall asleep and every morning as we wake up, are the golden hours for reprogramming. During these times, the gateway to the subconscious is wide open. The process is simple but requires consistency. First, you get into a state of deep relaxation. Then, using its language, you introduce the new program. You don't just think the words, I am confident. You create a vivid mental movie of yourself acting with unshakable confidence. You see it through your own eyes. Hear the confident tone in your own voice. And most importantly, you generate the powerful feeling of that confidence in the core of your being. You loop this mental movie with its associated feeling, over and over. As you drift off to sleep, each time you perform this practice, you are doing something remarkable at a neurological level. You are weakening the old neural pathways associated with the belief I am not confident. And you are building and strengthening new neural pathways associated with the belief I am confident. You are literally rewiring your brain. With enough repetition, the new pathway becomes the default. It becomes the new dominant programme. Then, you will find yourself automatically acting in confident ways without even having to think about it. The crew has been retrained. The classic work of Dr. Joseph Murphy. The power of your subconscious mind is filled with countless stories of people who have used this exact process to heal their bodies, attract wealth, and transform their relationships. But he also warns of the conflict that arises when the two minds are not in alignment. A person can consciously affirm I am prosperous all day long. But if they carry a deep subconscious belief, perhaps learned from their parents, that rich people are greedy and immoral, they will find themselves in an internal war. The subconscious mind, in its desire to keep you congruent with its core programming, will sabotage any opportunity for wealth to ensure you do not become what it believes to be a greedy and immoral person. True, effortless creation only happens when the captain and the crew are in perfect harmony. The goal is alignment, where your conscious desires are supported by, not at war with, your subconscious beliefs. In this deep dive, we have unveiled the subconscious mind as the powerful, hidden architect of our lives. We see it not as an enemy, but as a faithful servant operating on programs installed long ago. We have learned that it speaks a primal language of feelings, images, and repetition, and that we can communicate with it most effectively in relaxed, meditative states. We understand now that the great key to a fulfilling life is not more willpower or struggle, but the conscious and deliberate alignment of our conscious desires with our subconscious programming. When the captain on the bridge and the crew in the engine room are united in their destination, the ship of our life glides swiftly and effortlessly toward its goal. This profound inner alignment, this state of coherence between the conscious and subconscious minds, creates a powerful new signal that emanates from our being. And when we broadcast this clear, unified signal, a fascinating dialogue begins. The outer world, the universe itself, starts to notice. It begins to respond to our newfound inner harmony with winks, nods, and confirmations. But how do we learn to recognize this subtle and symbolic feedback? How do we read the messages the universe sends to let us know we are on the right path? Having achieved a state of inner coherence, with your conscious and subconscious minds aligned and broadcasting a unified signal, you open a new channel of communication. The universe, which is the greater extension of your own consciousness, that begins to speak back to you. But it does not communicate in human language, in clear, audible sentences. It speaks the language of the cosmos itself, a subtle and beautiful language of symbols, of patterns, of whispers, and of impossibly perfect timing. It speaks in the language of synchronicity. To learn this language is to move from a monologue with yourself to a living dialogue with the divine. It is to realize that you are never alone and are constantly being guided, affirmed, and gently nudged along your path. This phenomenon was given its name by the brilliant Swiss psychologist Carl Jung. He defined synchronicity as a meaningful coincidence, a moment when an event in the outer world aligns perfectly with an inner state of mind in a way that defies simple probability. It is not just a random coincidence, like two people happening to wear the same shirt. It is a coincidence that is pregnant with personal meaning for the one who observes it. For example, you may be wrestling with a deep and difficult question for days, feeling completely stuck. Then, while walking through a bookstore, a book inexplicably falls from a high shelf and lands at your feet. The title of that book contains the very answer you have been searching for. Or perhaps you have been thinking constantly of an old friend you lost touch with a decade ago, wondering how they are. That very afternoon, you take a wrong turn in a city you rarely visit and run directly into them on the street. These events are the universe's way of winking at you. They are echoes of your own energetic broadcast, confirming that your inner shifts, your questions, and your intentions are being heard and registered by the larger field of intelligence. They are moments when the veil between the inner and outer worlds becomes transparent, revealing the single, unified consciousness that is orchestrating both. This cosmic language often expresses itself through repeating patterns and signs, One of the most common experiences for people who are beginning to awaken spiritually is the phenomenon of seeing repeating number sequences, such as 1111, 222, or 444. You might glance at the clock at the exact same time every day, or notice these numbers on license plates, receipts, and billboards. While many systems assign specific meanings to these numbers, their primary purpose is often simpler and more profound. They are pattern interruptions. In a world where we are often lost in the fog of our own habitual thoughts, these repeating numbers serve as a gentle alarm bell from the universe. They are a nudge to wake you from your mental slumber, to pull you out of the past or the future, and to anchor you in the present moment. They are a reminder that there is a deeper intelligence at play, a hidden order beneath the surface of chaos. The same is true for other signs. You may be considering a difficult decision, and a song comes on the radio whose lyrics speak directly to your dilemma. Or you might ask for a sign of confirmation about a new path, and you begin seeing a specific animal, like an owl or a hawk, everywhere you go. The specific symbol is less important than the personal meaning it holds for you and the feeling of recognition it sparks within. This is not superstition. It is a personal dialogue, an intimate language being developed between you and the cosmos. Of all the ways the universe speaks to us, the most direct, personal, and reliable channel is your own intuition. Intuition is the soul's whisper. It is a direct knowing that bypasses the slow, cumbersome machinery of the logical mind. It is not a conclusion you reach through analysis. It is a truth that simply arrives, fully formed, in your awareness. Learning to hear and trust this subtle voice is perhaps the most important spiritual skill you can develop. The challenge lies in distinguishing the quiet whisper of intuition from the loud, demanding voices of the ego and of fear. The voice of the ego, of desire, is often loud, impatient, and needy. It argues, it rationalizes. It tells you what you should do to look good or gain approval. It feels like pressure. The voice of fear is also loud, but its energy is contracted and anxious. It constantly presents worst-case scenarios. It argues for the safety of the familiar, and it tries to talk you out of any bold move that involves risk. It feels tight and constricting. The voice of intuition, by contrast, is almost always calm, quiet, and neutral. It doesn't try to convince you with elaborate arguments. It simply presents a truth. It often feels like a simple, clear yes or no, a gentle pull towards something or a subtle feeling of revulsion away from it. It feels expansive and peaceful, even if the guidance it offers is to take a path that seems difficult or illogical to your conscious mind. Trusting your intuition means trusting that there is a part of you that knows the way, a higher self that sees the whole map while your conscious mind can only see the next few feet of the path. The more you honor these intuitive hits, even in small things, the stronger and clearer the signal becomes. You are exercising a spiritual muscle. You are telling the universe that you are listening to its most direct form of guidance. So, how do you become a more receptive instrument for this cosmic dialogue? How do you fine-tune your awareness to better perceive these signs and whispers? The first and most important key is presence. The universe speaks in the language of the now. If your mind is constantly lost in ruminating about the past or worrying about the future, you will miss the synchronicity that is happening right in front of you. Practicing mindfulness and bringing your attention to your senses is the foundation. Secondly, you must cultivate an attitude of openness and trust. You have to be willing to suspend your cynical, logical mind and entertain the possibility that these meaningful coincidences are more than just chance. You must learn to trust the intuitive nudges, even when they don't make immediate sense. Thirdly, it is vital to release your attachment to how your desires will manifest. When you are rigidly fixated on one specific path, you become blind to the surprising and magical detours the universe might be trying to show you. A powerful practice is to keep a synchronicity journal. At the end of each day, write down any meaningful coincidences, surprising encounters, or intuitive hits you experienced. This act of acknowledging them makes them more real to your conscious mind. It strengthens your belief in the process, and you will be astonished at how, once you start looking for them, these magical moments begin to multiply. The journey of the protagonist, Santiago, in Paulo Coelho's classic audiobook, The Alchemist, is a perfect parable for this entire process. Santiago finds his treasure not because he is the strongest or the most intelligent, but because he learns to read the language of the world. He learns to follow the omens. The universe speaks to him through everything. The flight of birds, the patterns in the sand, the wisdom of the wind, the life within the desert crystals. His entire journey is a string of synchronicities that guide him, test him, and ultimately lead him to his destiny. He learns that the soul of the world is always communicating, and his success depends entirely on his willingness to listen and to trust the heart, which is his personal connection to this universal intelligence. His story is our story, a reminder that life is not a random series of events, but a purposeful, guided adventure for those who have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. To recognize the language of the universe is to enter into a state of grace. It is to know, with a deep and abiding certainty, that you are part of a living, intelligent, and benevolent cosmos that is actively conspiring in your favor. Understanding the winks and nods of synchronicity and honoring the quiet whispers of your intuition confirms your connection to the whole. But what comes next? It is one thing to be a passive reader of the signs, to be guided by the flow of the river. It is another thing entirely to become a conscious co-author of the story, to pick up the paddle and steer your vessel with purpose and skill. The next step in our evolution as creators is to move from simply interpreting the language of creation to speaking it fluently, to use these fundamental principles not just to understand our path, but to deliberately and artfully pave it, having learned to recognize the subtle language of the universe, the dialogue of synchronicity and intuition. We now arrive at a pivotal moment in our journey. It is time to move from being a reader of the cosmic script to a conscious and deliberate co-author. For most of our lives, we have been creating by default. We have allowed our reality to be shaped by our unconscious programming, our random thoughts, and the collective beliefs of the world around us. The result is often a life that feels like it is happening to us, rather than for us. But now, armed with an understanding of consciousness, vibration, and thought, we can step into our true power. We can begin to practice the art of deliberate creation, the process of moving from being a passive passenger, carried by the currents of circumstance, to becoming the captain of our ship, setting a clear course for the shores of our choosing. This is the moment we trade the canvas of chance for the palette of intention and begin to paint the masterpiece of our lives with purpose and skill. The entire process of deliberate creation, as taught by many great masters of this philosophy, can be distilled into a simple, three-step framework: ask, believe, and receive. The first step, asking, is the step of clarity. Clarity is power. The universe is an infinitely accommodating field of potential, but it cannot deliver a blurry or contradictory order. A vague désir like, I wish I were happier, or I'd like to have more money, is like walking into a fine restaurant and telling the waiter, just bring me some food. The waiter cannot possibly fulfill your request to your satisfaction. You must consult the menu and decide what you truly want. The universe works in the same way. You must get crystal clear on your desires. What does happy feel like specifically? What would you be doing? Who would you be with? How much money? Exactly. Do you wish to create? And what is the feeling of freedom and security it would provide you? The act of defining your desire with precision is the act of asking. This is not a desperate plea or a weak supplication. It is a clear, confident, and joyful placement of your order with the cosmic kitchen, made with the full understanding that the ingredients are infinite and the chef is benevolent. The second step, believe, is where the true inner work lies. Believing, in this context, is not just a passive hope. It is an active state of being. It is the practice of aligning your entire vibrational signature with the reality of your wish already fulfilled. It means thinking the thoughts, feeling the emotions, and carrying yourself as the person who already has what you have asked for. This is the art of living from the end. You must give more of your faith, focus, and energy to the unseen reality you are creating in consciousness than you give to the so-called real world that your five senses currently report. When your bank account shows lack, you must believe in your abundance. When you feel lonely, you must believe in your belovedness. When you feel unwell, you must believe in your wholeness. This is not delusion. It is loyalty to the unseen reality. It is about closing the vibrational gap between the you who is asking and the you who has already received. You must become a vibrational match for your desire before it can physically manifest. For the outer world is nothing more than a mirror reflecting your inner state of being. The third step is to receive. This is the art of allowing, of getting out of your own way. After you have clearly asked and aligned yourself with the belief that it is done, you must open the door for it to arrive. The primary way we block our own good is through resistance. Resistance is a collection of low-frequency vibrations. Doubt, worry, impatience, fear, and the desperate need to control the outcome. It is like meticulously planting a seed in a garden and then digging it up every 10 minutes to see if it has sprouted. That anxiety and lack of trust will kill the seed. To be in the receiving mode is to be in a state of joyful, trusting expectation. It is to let go and let God, or let the universe, handle the logistics. The feeling of the receiving mode is peace. It is gratitude. It is knowing that your order has been placed. The kitchen is preparing it, and it will be delivered to you at the perfect time and in the perfect way. Your only job is to remain in a state of high vibration, to keep your own energy clear and open, so that when your good arrives, it has a clear path to you. This leads us to a vital distinction that is the secret to the receiving mode. Separating the what from the how. This is the sacred division of labor between you and the universe. Your job is to focus entirely on the what. What is it that you desire to experience? What is the feeling of that reality? Your work is to define the destination with absolute clarity and to embody the feeling of having already arrived. The how is none of your business. The how is the exclusive domain of the universe, of that infinite intelligence that can see all possibilities and orchestrate events in ways that your limited, logical mind could never conceive. The moment you start obsessing over how it will happen, how the money will come, or how you will meet the right person, you are stepping out of your role as the visionary and trying to become the general manager. Your logical mind can only see a handful of pathways, but the universe has an infinite number of paths at its disposal, including paths of miracles and magic that defy all logic. Trying to control the how creates immense resistance. It is a declaration of distrust to the universe. The true art of allowing is to hold the vision of the what with unwavering faith, and to completely and utterly surrender the how to a power far greater than your own. This does not mean you simply sit on your sofa and do nothing. Action is almost always a part of the creative process, but there are two very different kinds of action. The first is effortful struggle, or forced action. This type of action is born from the ego. It arises from anxiety, doubt, and the fearful belief that, if I don't make this happen, it will never happen. It feels heavy, stressful, and like you are constantly pushing a boulder uphill. The second type of action is inspired action. This action arises from your intuition, from your connection to the universal flow. After you have aligned your energy with your desire and let go of the how, you will often get a sudden, spontaneous urge. It might be a desire to call a specific person, to visit a certain place, to read a particular book, or to start a new project. This impulse will feel light, joyful, exciting, and effortless. It will feel less like you are pushing and more like you are being pulled. This is the universe tapping you on the shoulder and saying, "Okay, the next step is ready. Go this way." The early 20th century writer Wallace D. Wattles, in his foundational work, The Science of Getting Rich, called this acting in a certain way. This certain way is to act with the absolute faith and feeling that you are already a creator, that you are already in possession of what you seek. This inner state of mind ensures that your actions are not born of frantic fear, but of calm, confident, creative power, making them incredibly effective. We have now outlined the elegant and powerful art of deliberate creation. It is the conscious movement from creating by default to creating by design. It is a three-step dance of asking with clarity, believing with your entire being, and receiving with an open and trusting heart. It requires the wisdom to focus only on the what and surrender the how, and the discernment to act only when inspired, not when forced by fear. This is how you transition from being a piece on the chessboard to being the player. This is how you become the master artist of your life. But to truly master this art, we need tools that help us with that crucial first step, the step of creating absolute clarity, to define the what in a way that truly impresses the subconscious mind and energizes the quantum field. We can turn to one of the most practical and potent techniques available: the simple, magical act of writing our future into existence. Having embraced our role as the deliberate artists of our lives, we need effective tools to translate our inner vision into a clear, coherent blueprint. We must find a way to take the vague desires of the heart and crystallize them into a powerful command that both the universe and our own subconscious mind can understand. While simple visualization and affirmation are powerful, there is a technique that combines their strengths into a single, focused practice of incredible potency. This technique is known as scripting. Scripting is the art and science of writing your reality into existence. It is not about writing what you hope will happen. It is about writing what is happening now, or what has already happened. It is the act of picking up a pen and paper and writing a scene from your desired future, as if you are a journalist reporting on a past event or a diarist recording your present joy. It is the ultimate shift from being a reader of your life story to becoming its author. The power of scripting lies in its unique ability to harness and focus your creative faculties. Firstly, the simple act of writing forces clarity. The mind can entertain 1,000 vague, scattered, and even contradictory thoughts in a minute. But to write a sentence, you must choose your words. You must organize the chaos of your mind into a single, coherent stream of intention. This process alone takes a blurry desire and brings it into sharp focus. Secondly, scripting is a profound multisensory experience. It is not just a mental exercise. It engages the physical, kinesthetic sensation of your hand, moving the pen across the page. It engages the visual sense as you see the words appear, giving your desire a tangible form outside of your own head. This combination of mental, visual, and physical engagement creates a much deeper and more powerful impression on your brain and your subconscious mind than thinking alone ever could. You are taking an ethereal idea and anchoring it in the physical world, making it feel more real, more possible, and more imminent. To make your scripting practice truly effective, there are a few golden rules that amplify its power exponentially. The first and most important rule is to always write in the present or past tense. Never write about your desire in the future tense. To write, "I will be so happy when I get that job," is to affirm that you do not have it now, and you will keep creating the experience of not having it. Instead, you write in the present tense. "I am so happy and grateful now that I have my wonderful new job." Or even more powerfully, in the past tense, as if you are fondly remembering the moment it happened. "I will never forget the feeling of joy when I received the call offering me the job." This signals to your subconscious mind, which has no concept of past or future, that this event is a finished, established fact in reality. The second rule is that emotion is the ink your words are written in. A dry, emotionless script is a powerless one. Your primary goal, while scripting, is to generate the authentic feeling of the wish fulfilled. This is why it is so effective to begin every script with the phrase, "I am so happy and grateful now that." This immediately tunes your vibration to the frequency of gratitude, the ultimate receiving mode. As you write, describe your feelings in rich detail. How did you feel? What was the sensation of relief, joy, love, or peace like in your body? The third rule is that details bring your vision to life. Specificity is the key to making the scene real for your subconscious. Don't just write, "I found my perfect partner." Describe the experience. For example, a script for a new, loving relationship might look something like this. "I am so incredibly happy and grateful, sitting here next to my amazing partner. I remember the night we met so clearly. How easy and natural the conversation was. How I felt an instant sense of recognition and comfort. I loved the sound of their laughter. The way they look at me with such genuine love and admiration. Waking up next to them each morning fills my heart with a profound sense of peace and rightness. We just returned from the most incredible trip to Italy, and sharing that experience. The food, the sights, the romance has deepened our connection in ways I could only have dreamed of. I feel so seen, so cherished, and so completely myself." Notice the use of past tense memories, present tense feelings, and specific, sensory details. This is what makes a script a potent, living prayer. Once you have finished writing your script, steeped in the emotions of your reality, the next step is crucial. You must release it. The primary power of scripting is in the act of writing itself. The process of clarifying your intent and generating the feeling now. After the seed has been planted in the fertile soil of the subconscious, you must trust the process. You must let it go. To obsessively reread your script from a place of anxiety or impatience, constantly checking to see if it has worked, is the energetic equivalent of digging up the seed. It signals a profound lack of faith and short circuits the manifestation. However, this does not mean you should forget it entirely. You can, and should, return to your script periodically, not to check on its progress, but to re-experience the elevated emotions. Read it to remember how good it felt, to once again align your vibration with that reality, and to amplify your feeling of gratitude. Use your script as a vibrational tuning fork to bring yourself back into harmony with your wish fulfilled. This practice of decreeing your reality through the written word is not a new invention. In countless online communities dedicated to the law of attraction, you will find thousands of inspiring stories from people who have scripted everything from new homes and dream jobs to healed relationships and improved health into their lives. But the lineage of this wisdom goes back much further. Pioneering spiritual teachers of the early 20th century, like the brilliant Florence Scovel Shinn, taught this very principle. In her audiobooks, she powerfully affirms that your word is your wand. She taught that the spoken and written word, when filled with faith and feeling, is a creative decree. It is the shaping of the formless substance of the universe into specific form. By scripting, you are not just writing down a wish. You are making a bold declaration to the universe. You are speaking the word for the reality you choose. And that word, once sent forth, cannot return to you void. In essence, scripting is a focused and deliberate method for turning yourself into the author and protagonist of your own life story. It is a sacred bridge between the inner world of your imagination and the outer world of your experience. It takes a fleeting thought, clarifies it into a concrete intention, energizes it with powerful emotion, and impresses it deeply upon the subconscious architect who will then work tirelessly to build its physical equivalent. It is a testament to the fact that the most powerful creative tool in the universe is not a supercomputer or a magic lamp, but your own consciousness, focused and directed through the simple, timeless magic of a pen and a piece of paper. But while scripting is a potent way to program the mind in a normal, waking state, there exists another state of consciousness, a sacred window of time each day, where the gateway to the subconscious is unguarded, and the soil is exceptionally fertile for planting new seeds. It is a mysterious, dreamlike state known to the great masters as the most powerful time for creation, the state that borders on sleep itself. While scripting provides a powerful method for clarifying and energizing our desires in the waking world, there exists a secret gateway, a sacred window of time each day, where the veil between the conscious and subconscious minds becomes exceptionally thin. This is the twilight realm, the threshold between wakefulness and sleep. And it is here that we can practice one of the most direct and potent creative techniques ever taught. This technique was the cornerstone of the teachings of the great 20th century mystic and spiritual visionary, Neville Goddard. He called it the state akin to sleep, or SATS. To master this art is to hold the master key that unlocks the treasure vault of your subconscious mind, allowing you to plant your desires so deeply that they have no choice but to grow into physical reality. The profound effectiveness of this technique is not just mystical conjecture. It is supported by our modern understanding of brainwave science. During our busy, active day, our brain is typically operating in a beta brainwave state. This is the state of alertness, of logical, analytical, and often critical thought. In this state, the guardian at the gate of your subconscious, your conscious mind, is fully awake and vigilant, quick to reject any idea that contradicts your existing beliefs about reality. As you begin to relax, perhaps by closing your eyes and taking a few deep breaths, your brainwaves slow down into an alpha state. This is the state of light meditation, of daydreaming, where the analytical mind begins to quiet down. The guardian is getting drowsy. As you relax even more deeply, entering the state just before you drift off to sleep, your brainwaves slow further into the theta state. This is the realm of deep meditation, of hypnosis, and of dreams. In theta, the guardian is asleep. The gate to the subconscious mind is wide open, and it will accept any idea presented to it as absolute truth, without argument or criticism. SATS is the art of consciously holding your desired reality in your imagination, while your mind and body are in this deeply receptive alpha-theta state, thereby impressing your desire directly onto the creative film of your subconscious mind. The execution of SATS is a simple, elegant ritual. The first step, which should be done before you get into bed, is to define your objective. You must construct a very short, simple, the first-person scene that implies your wish has already been fulfilled. This is crucial. You do not imagine the moment you receive the money, get the job, or hear the diagnosis. You imagine a scene that would take place after that event, a natural consequence of it. The scene should be brief, no more than a few seconds long, so it can be easily repeated. For example, if you desire to be married, you might construct a scene of simply feeling the smooth, solid wedding band on your finger. You don't see it from the outside. You feel it from the inside. If you desire a promotion, you could imagine a friend or family member shaking your hand and saying, "Congratulations." If you desire to heal a relationship, you could imagine a warm, loving embrace with that person. The scene must be a static action that you can loop, and it must clearly imply the fulfillment of your desire. Once you have your scene prepared, you get into a comfortable position, typically lying on your back in bed, ready for sleep. Close your eyes and begin to relax your body. You can do this by taking a few slow, deep breaths, and with each exhale, feel the tension of the day melting away. Neville taught the importance of achieving a state of physical immobility, as a quiet body helps to induce a quiet mind. Lie still, as if you are already asleep, but keep your mind alert. Once you are in this deeply relaxed, drowsy state, you begin the interaction. You bring your short, imaginal scene to mind. Then, you loop it over and over and over again. You don't just see it. You immerse yourself in it with as much sensory vividness as you can muster. If your scene is the handshake, feel the texture and warmth of the other person's hand in yours. Hear the sincerity in their voice as they say, "Congratulations," and feel the surge of pride and joy in your own heart. If your scene is the wedding ring, feel its weight and its perfect smoothness against your skin. You repeat this short, sensory-rich imaginal act without effort, without strain, gently looping it again and again as you drift deeper and deeper towards sleep. As you continue this process of repetition, something miraculous begins to happen. At first, the scene may feel forced, like a deliberate act of make-believe. But as you persist, as your conscious mind continues to quiet down, the scene will begin to take on what Neville called the tones of reality. It will start to feel real. The imaginary sensations will feel solid and lifelike. The imaginary sounds will become clear and distinct. The feelings associated with the scene will become your own authentic feelings. This is the critical moment. This is the moment of impregnation. When the subconscious mind accepts your imaginal act as a factual memory, you are no longer trying to make it happen. You are simply experiencing a reality that already exists in your imagination. You have successfully occupied the state of the wish fulfilled. Once you have brought your imaginal act to the point of sensory vividness and it feels completely natural and real, you do not break the state. You do not open your eyes or sit up and say, "I did it." You simply let go and allow yourself to drift off to sleep from within that feeling of fulfillment. You are literally sleeping in the assumption that your desire is an accomplished fact. As you sleep, your subconscious mind, which now holds this new belief as a directive, begins its mysterious work. It will influence your actions, guide your intuition, and rearrange the events of your waking world to bring forth the physical manifestation of the reality you impressed upon it. One of the most famous stories Neville told was of his own experience with this technique. He was stuck in New York City during the Great Depression, desperate to return to his home and family in Barbados, but with no money for passage. His spiritual teacher, an Ethiopian rabbi named Abdullah, simply told him, "You are in Barbados." He instructed Neville to sleep that night in Barbados. That night, Neville lay down in his bed in New York and imagined he was in his childhood bed in his mother's house in Barbados. He saw the familiar furniture, felt the warm tropical breeze through the window, and heard the sound of the ocean and the palm trees. He looped this scene until it felt so real that he fell asleep there. Within days, a series of seemingly miraculous events unfolded, and he was gifted a first-class ticket to sail home to Barbados. He had successfully slept in the assumption and his world reconfigured to match it. The state akin to sleep is the ultimate creative ritual. It is a nightly practice of dying to your current reality and being reborn into the reality of your choice. It bypasses the stubborn, critical ego and speaks directly to the creative powerhouse of the subconscious in the language it understands best. The language of first-hand experience. It is the practical application of the spiritual truth that your imagination is the one and only creative power. This technique, and all the principles we have discussed, represent a direct line to the power that creates worlds. They are your birthright as a conscious creator. However, as you begin to walk this path with sincerity and dedication, as you begin to claim your power, you will inevitably come face to face with two ancient and formidable adversaries. They are the twin dragons that rise from the depths of your own mind to guard the treasure you seek. Their names are doubt and fear. As you begin to wield these powerful tools of creation, as you script your new reality and impress your desires upon your subconscious mind in the state akin to sleep, You will inevitably come face to face with the guardians of your old reality. They are the twin dragons that dwell in the cave of the human mind, rising up with smoke and fire the moment you dare to claim a reality that your senses cannot yet confirm. Their names are doubt and fear. Their appearance is not a sign that you are failing. On the contrary, it is a sign that you are succeeding. It is proof that you are genuinely challenging the foundations of your old world. These inner adversaries are the final test before you can claim your treasure. Our task is not to slay these dragons in a bloody battle, for they are a part of us, but to understand their nature, to disarm them with wisdom, and to walk past them with the quiet authority of a true creator. Let us first understand the nature of doubt. Doubt is the voice of your logical, rational mind. It is the inner scientist, the skeptic, whose job it is to analyze the world based on hard, empirical evidence. This part of your mind has been trained since birth to believe only what your five senses can validate. It looks at your current circumstances, at the data of your past experiences, at your bank statements, at your medical reports, and it presents a case that is, from its perspective, flawless and irrefutable. It says, "This is reality. Your imaginal acts are just wishful thinking, a pleasant but childish fantasy." It is crucial to understand that doubt is not malicious. It is a protective mechanism. Its intention is to keep you safe from disappointment by tethering you to the known world. It is simply operating on an outdated set of laws, the laws of a purely material universe. It does not yet understand the higher law, that consciousness is the one and only reality. To fight doubt head-on is to give it power. To argue with it is to validate its premise. A far more effective approach is to disarm it with acknowledgement and then bypass it with conscious choice. When the voice of doubt rises, do not suppress it. Instead, turn toward it and have a gentle, internal dialogue. Acknowledge its position. You might say to yourself, "I hear you. I understand why you are presenting this evidence, based on everything I have ever been taught and have experienced in the past. Your conclusion that this is impossible is perfectly logical. Thank you for trying to protect me." In this moment, you have disarmed it. You have not fought it. You have shown it that you understand its perspective. Then, immediately follow this with a declaration of your new allegiance. You say, "However, I am now choosing to operate under a higher law. I am choosing to believe in the evidence of my imagination over the evidence of my senses. While I respect your viewpoint, I am giving my full faith and attention to the reality I have created within." This is not a battle. It is a conscious pivot. You are gently but firmly shifting your authority from the outer world of effects to the inner world of cause. The second dragon, fear, is the voice of your ego. Fear is the emotional response of your limited, separate sense of self when it feels its existence is being threatened. The ego builds its entire identity around your current story, your problems, your limitations, and your history. It finds a strange comfort in the familiar, even if the familiar is painful. When you begin to imagine a new reality, the ego panics. This panic manifests in several ways. There is the fear of failure, the ego's terror of looking foolish or being proven wrong. But there is also the more subtle and often more powerful fear of success. What if this actually works? What if you become healthy, wealthy, or find true love? This means your old story, the story of the struggling victim that the ego knows so well, will have to die. A new identity will have to be born. The ego asks with terror, "Who will I be then? Will I be able to handle it? Will people treat me differently?" Fear is the ego's desperate, last-ditch attempt to keep you locked in the familiar prison of your known limitations. To master these powerful energies, you need practical strategies. The first is to build a portfolio of proof. Keep an evidence log or a success journal. In it, you will consciously manifest small, believable things. Intend to get a perfect parking spot at a busy store. Imagine hearing from a specific friend. Visualize receiving a small, unexpected amount of money. When these things inevitably happen, write them down. This log becomes your evidence file that you can present to your inner skeptic. See, you can say to your doubt, this law works. We have proof. This gradually builds faith from the ground up. The second strategy is to constantly return to first principles. When doubt feels overwhelming, reread or re-listen to the foundational teachings. Remind yourself that consciousness is the only reality, that the entire world is yourself pushed out, that your imagination is God in action. Strengthening your intellectual understanding of these truths provides a powerful anchor when the emotional storms of fear and doubt arise. Perhaps the most potent strategy was taught by Neville Goddard: the practice of a strict mental diet. This is a spiritual fast. You make a covenant with yourself that for a specific period of time, perhaps just for 1 day, or for 3 days, you will completely refuse to entertain any thought, feeling, conversation, or information that contradicts the reality of your wish fulfilled. You put your mind on a strict diet of only thoughts that align with your desire. When a negative thought of doubt or fear arises, you do not fight it. You simply refuse to give it your attention. You turn your back on it. You let it starve from lack of energy. This practice is challenging, but it builds incredible mental muscle. It proves to you that you are in control of your own attention, and it purges your consciousness of the negative patterns that have held you back. And finally, you embrace the wisdom of author Susan Jeffers and feel the fear and do it anyway. You acknowledge the feeling of fear in your body, but you take the inspired action regardless. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting in spite of it. Every time you move through fear, you diminish its power and expand the boundaries of your freedom. Doubt and fear, then, are not your enemies. They are the guardians of the gateway to a new level of consciousness. They are the weights in the gymnasium of the mind. And by working with them, you become stronger. They are not signs that you are doing it wrong. They are proof that you are challenging your deepest limitations. By understanding their origins, by dialoguing with them, by building your evidence, by fasting from negativity, and by acting with courage, you learn to tame these inner dragons. You learn to walk past them with a calm and knowing smile. These strategies are your shield and your map for navigating this challenging terrain. But to walk past these guardians with true and lasting authority, you need more than just defensive tools. You need to carry a sword of absolute truth. You need a declaration of your own inherent power, so fundamental and so profound that it dissolves doubt and fear at their very root. It is time to stop borrowing power and to claim the creative name of God as your very own. In our quest to master the art of creation, we have armed ourselves with strategies to navigate the inner landscape of doubt and fear. These are our shields, our maps, our tools for defense and navigation. But now, we must unsheathe the sword. We must claim the weapon of absolute truth. A declaration of power, so fundamental and so profound that its very utterance dissolves resistance at its source. This ultimate weapon is not a complex incantation or a secret ritual. It is a simple statement of two of the most powerful words in the human language. The two words that, when understood and used consciously, allow you to claim your divine birthright as a creator. These words are, I am. They are the name of God, the sound of pure being, the primary reality. To master your life, you must first master the conscious use of I am. Let us first deconstruct the profound meaning packed into this simple phrase. Before you are anything else that you can name, before you are a man or a woman, before you are rich or poor, before you are healthy or sick, you must first simply be. The state of being, of existing, is prior to all conditions and all qualities. The statement I am is the sound of pure, unconditioned consciousness recognizing itself. It is the awareness of being. the foundation upon which all other states are built. In the great mystical traditions of the world, this is understood as the creative name of God. In the biblical story of Moses at the burning bush, when Moses asks for God's name, the response is not a personal name like the gods of mythology. The response is a formula, a statement of absolute being. I am that I am. The great mystics, like Neville Goddard, have taught that this is not the name of an external entity, but a revelation of the nature of reality itself. It means that consciousness, which is God, is whatever it is conscious of being. The I am within you is your personal link to this infinite creative power. It is the assertion that you exist, and therefore, you have the power to define the quality of that existence. With this understanding, we come to a sobering realization. We have been wielding this divine, creative power our entire lives, but we have been doing so unconsciously, and often, destructively. We have been taking the pure, limitless name of God and attaching it to all of our limitations. Listen to how we speak in our daily lives. At the end of a long day, we sigh and declare, I am so tired. When facing a challenge, we state as fact, I am not smart enough for this. When we feel a sniffle, we announce, I am getting sick. In conversations about our finances, we confess, I am always broke. Every time you make a statement like this, you are performing a powerful spiritual invocation. You are taking the pure, unconditioned power of being, your I am, and you are commanding it to take on the form of tiredness, of sickness, of lack. Your subconscious mind, the faithful servant, hears the divine command, I am tired. And without question, it begins to orchestrate the chemistry and energy of your body to produce the physical reality of exhaustion. You are using the power that creates worlds to create a world you do not want. This unconscious misuse of I am is the primary reason so many people feel stuck in cycles of lack and limitation. They are perpetually reaffirming their prison walls into existence. The moment you awaken to this truth, you can begin to reverse the process. You can stop being an unconscious destroyer and become a conscious creator. The practice is simple in principle, but it requires vigilance and dedication. You must consciously and deliberately choose what you attach to the sacred name I am. You stop defining yourself by your current circumstances, which are only the fossilized results of your past thinking, and you start defining yourself by the reality you wish to create. This is the art of conscious affirmation. You begin your day not by stating your problems, but by declaring your truth. You say, either silently or aloud, I am healthy. I am strong. I am wealthy. I am loved. I am secure. I am divinely guided. The key to this practice, however, is that it is not a mechanical repetition of empty words. The words are the key that turns the ignition, but the feeling is the fuel that starts the engine. As you declare, I am wealthy, you must not feel the longing to become wealthy. You must embody the feeling of being wealthy. Right now, in this moment, you must feel the security, the freedom, the generosity that is the essence of true wealth. This practice evolves beyond simple morning affirmations and into a new way of being, a new state of self-awareness throughout your day. It is the practice of living from the assumption. When you face a challenge at work, you do not react from a state of I am overwhelmed. You pause, and you ask yourself, how would the person who is creative, confident, and capable handle this? You then act from that state. When you interact with others, you do not come from a place of I am lonely and need love. You come from a state of I am love, radiating warmth and wholeness, which in turn makes you magnetic. This is what it means to truly live by the power of I am. It is a constant, conscious choice to identify with your desired state of being, Regardless of what the outer world may be reflecting back to you at the moment, you are choosing your reality from the inside out. It is also vital to recognize the immense power of the present tense inherent in this phrase. The statement is not "I will be," nor is it "I hope to be." Both of those phrases affirm a future event, which simultaneously affirms a present lack. To say "I will be healthy" is to declare "I am not healthy now." The creative power of "I am" operates only in the eternal now, the only moment that ever truly exists. When you declare "I am," you are bypassing the illusion of time. You are collapsing the process. You are not asking for something to happen in the future. You are claiming it as a present fact within your own consciousness, which is the only place reality is ever truly created. As pioneers like Florence Scovel Shin taught, when you speak the word, you are making a decree that a thing is so. Now, you are commanding the formless substance to take the form you have named. And by the law of being, it must obey. The two simple words, "I am," are your declaration of spiritual sovereignty. They are your escape from the prison of victimhood. They are the recognition that you are not a creation of circumstance, but the creator of your circumstances. By becoming vigilantly aware of how you use these words, you reclaim your power. You stop unconsciously defining yourself by your problems and limitations, and you begin the sacred work of consciously defining yourself as the embodiment of everything you wish to be and experience. To stand firm in the declaration, "I am healthy in the face of symptoms," or "I am wealthy in the face of bills," is the ultimate act of faith. It is the ultimate weapon against doubt and fear, for it is a declaration of a reality in which those things do not have the final say. You do. You have prepared the soil of your mind. You have chosen the perfect seed of desire. And now, with the power of "I am," you have planted it with divine authority. And once a seed is planted so perfectly, a new spiritual discipline is required. You must now perform the most profound and often the most challenging act of faith. You must let it go, having claimed your desire with the divine authority of the words "I am." And having impressed this new reality upon your subconscious mind through the focused ritual of the state akin to sleep, you have now completed the sacred act of creation. You have prepared the fertile soil of your mind. You have chosen the perfect seed of your desire, and you have planted it with unwavering faith and feeling. The work is done. Now, you must begin the most challenging, the most misunderstood, and the most crucial phase of the entire process. You must enter the Sabbath. You must learn the divine art of letting go. In the spiritual context taught by the great mystics, the Sabbath is not a day of the week. It is a state of consciousness. It is a spiritual rest, a sacred pause, a period of complete non-action where you allow the seed you have planted in the darkness of your subconscious to germinate, undisturbed by the anxieties of your conscious mind. This is the ultimate test of your faith. The primary reason why so many desires fail to materialize is the Creator's inability to observe this Sabbath. They perform their spiritual work with diligence, only to immediately destroy it with worry and doubt. This is the fatal error of digging up the seed to see if it is growing. Imagine a gardener who plants a precious seed. If he were to return every hour, anxiously digging away the soil to check for sprouts, what would happen? He would expose the delicate, germinating seed to harsh conditions it is not ready for. He would disrupt its root system, and he would inevitably kill it. Your desire is the seed. The subconscious mind is the fertile soil. Your anxious need for proof, your constant checking for signs, your obsessive wondering about when and how it will happen. This is the act of digging up the seed. Every time you worry, you are sending a powerful vibrational command to the universe that you do not believe the work was done. You are affirming lack. You are canceling your own order. The creative process requires a period of gestation in the unseen. It must be allowed to grow in the darkness, undisturbed, before it can break through into the light of your physical world. It is absolutely critical to understand that letting go is not the same as giving up. They are polar opposite states of being. Giving up is an act of despair. It is a declaration of defeat. It is the low-frequency vibration of, "This isn't working. I am powerless." It feels heavy, sad, and resigned. Letting go, on the other hand, is an act of supreme confidence. It is a declaration of victory. It is the high-frequency vibration of, "It is done. The creative act is finished. My part is complete, and the result is now assured." It feels light, peaceful, and joyful. You are not dropping the desire itself. You are dropping the anxiety, the struggle, and the attachment to the outcome. You are graduating from the state of hopeful wanting to the state of peaceful knowing. It is the difference between a student frantically cramming for an exam and a student who has already passed the exam and is simply waiting for the official certificate to arrive in the mail. The Sabbath is the state of the student who has already passed. How, then, do you know if you have successfully entered this state of spiritual rest? The signs are not external. They are internal. The first and most prominent sign of a true Sabbath is a feeling of profound peace and naturalness. The frantic, needy energy you once had around your desire completely vanishes. It is replaced by a quiet, unshakable knowing that it is done. The mental arguments in your head cease. Secondly, you lose all sense of urgency. The compulsive need to do another technique, to visualize one more time, or to script again, disappears. You feel a sense of satisfaction, as if you have just eaten a wonderful meal and are completely full. You have no appetite for more mental work on that subject because you feel it is complete. Thirdly, you find yourself feeling a sense of cool indifference to the timing. You are no longer obsessed with when it will happen. You trust implicitly that it will appear in the perfect way and at the perfect time. The idea of your desire being a reality no longer feels shocking or even particularly exciting. It just feels normal. It has become a natural part of your assumed reality. Achieving this state of masterful trust is a practice. One of the most helpful analogies is that of placing an order from a massive, reliable online retailer. You browse the website and find the exact item you want. This is clarifying your desire. You put it in your cart and proceed to checkout. This is making a firm decision. You enter your payment information and click Confirm Order. This is the focused, creative act, like SATS or an I am meditation. Now, what do you do next? Do you call the company's customer service every 10 minutes asking where your package is? Do you frantically refresh the tracking information, gripped with anxiety? No. You simply trust the system. You go about your life, knowing with complete confidence that a complex series of events is now in motion and your package will be delivered. Entering the Sabbath is about having that same unwavering faith in the laws of consciousness. You have placed your order with the universe. Now trust the delivery system. The best way to do this is to get busy and joyfully engaged with your current life. Shift your focus. Pour your energy into a hobby, into your work, into being of service to others. A mind that is happily occupied has no time or energy to dig up seeds. And above all, live in a state of gratitude for all the blessings you already have. Gratitude is the frequency of received good, and it keeps you in the perfect vibrational state to allow more good to flow to you. The great Neville Goddard taught that this principle is the mystical meaning of the fourth commandment. The instruction to remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy was, for him, a psychological directive for all of humanity. The 6 days of labor are the periods of mental work, the conscious, and sometimes effortful, act of assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. But after that work is done, you must enter the 7th day, the Sabbath. On this day, you do not labor. You rest in the conviction that the work is finished. You do not mentally touch the subject again. You remain in a state of quiet contemplation and confidence. To be able to successfully enter this state of rest is to demonstrate your complete faith in the unseen reality, in your own creative power, which is the power of God. The Sabbath, therefore, is the sacred seal you place upon your creative act. It is the final, graceful bow at the end of a magnificent performance. It is the quiet confidence of the master artist who has placed the final brushstroke and now steps back to allow the masterpiece to be unveiled. It is the ultimate act of trust, a demonstration of your understanding that once a thing is created in your imagination, its physical manifestation is absolutely assured. Mastering this art of letting go, of entering the Sabbath, marks a profound evolution in your spiritual practice. You begin to move beyond the need for constant, effortful technique. You begin to stabilize in a new state of awareness, a new way of being. The next phase of our journey is about graduating from the role of a student who is consciously doing the work to becoming the master who unconsciously is the work. It is the great shift from effortful practice to an effortless existence. The shift from doing to simply being. Having mastered the sacred pause of the Sabbath, the art of planting a seed and trusting its growth, we now ascend to the very pinnacle of this creative science. We move beyond discrete moments of practice, beyond the 10 minutes of scripting or the nightly ritual of sats, and into a continuous, unbroken state of being. This is the master art known as living in the end. This is the ultimate secret. It is the understanding that you do not perform these techniques in order to get your desire. You perform them in order to become the person who already has it. The goal is not to change the world outside. It is to so completely change your sense of self that the world outside has no choice but to reconfigure itself in harmony with your new reality. It is the final shift from the process of becoming to the state of simply being. The great mystic Neville Goddard distilled this entire profound truth into 3 simple words. The feeling is the secret. He was not speaking of a fleeting, momentary emotion, but a deep, abiding state of being, a sustained mood that becomes the background music of your life. While a technique like SATS is a powerful tool to impress the subconscious, living in the end is the art of carrying that feeling of the wish fulfilled with you throughout your waking day. You must understand that the universe is not primarily responding to your occasional, focused thoughts. It is responding to your dominant, habitual feeling state. Your prevailing mood is your true and constant prayer. It is the vibrational signature you are broadcasting 24 hours a day. Therefore, the goal is to make the feeling of your wish fulfilled your new home. It must become your natural, default state of being. You must feel so familiar with the state of abundance, health, or love that your old state of lack, sickness, or loneliness feels strange and foreign to you. You are moving house. Spiritually, you are vacating the shack of your problems and moving into the mansion of your solution. To achieve this, you must constantly ask yourself a single, transformative question. How would I feel if my desire were a present fact? Go beyond a one-word answer. Truly investigate it. How would you think differently as you move through your day? Would you still be consumed with the same worries and anxieties? No. The person who has solved their financial problems does not spend their day worrying about money. The person who has found true love does not spend their day feeling lonely. You must begin to consciously adopt the mental posture of your wish fulfilled. When a thought arises that belongs to your old story, you must recognize it as such and gently dismiss it, refusing to give it your energy. You are curating your inner world to match the frequency of your desired outer world. This inner shift must then be expressed outwardly. How would the person who has already achieved your goal walk? Would they walk with their shoulders slumped and their eyes on the ground? Or would they walk with their head held high, with a sense of purpose and quiet confidence? How would they speak? With a tone of complaint and uncertainty? Or with a voice of calm authority and grace? How would they treat others? Would they be impatient and defensive? Or would they be more generous, more patient, more gracious, knowing that all is well in their world? This is not about being dishonest or faking it till you make it in a way that feels inauthentic. It is the art of method acting for reality creation. You are so fully embodying the character of your future self that you begin to spontaneously think, feel, and act as that person would. These new actions, born from a new inner assumption, are incredibly powerful. They send a clear and coherent signal to the universe that you have changed. And the mirror of reality must reflect that change back to you. At its deepest level, living in the end is about a fundamental and radical change to your self-concept. We all carry a core assumption about who we are. For many, that assumption is a negative one. I am the kind of person who always struggles. Or I am unlucky in love. Or I'm just not a healthy person. As long as this core assumption remains in place, no amount of technique can create lasting change. It is like trying to build a new house on a rotten foundation. The entire structure will eventually collapse back into the old pattern. Living in the end requires the courage to completely demolish the old foundation. You must be willing to let the old man, the former self defined by lack and limitation, you can no longer afford the luxury of indulging in the thoughts, feelings, and conversations that belong to your old story. You must fully, unapologetically, and persistently adopt the new self-concept. I am now the person who is prosperous, who is adored, who is vibrantly healthy. This is the great spiritual resurrection. You must die to your old conception of yourself to be reborn into the new. This is the most challenging part of the work, but it is also the most rewarding, for it is the only path to permanent, transformative change. When you successfully and persistently live from the end, when you have truly changed your inner state of being, the universe will respond in the most magical and mysterious of ways. It will build you what Neville Goddard called the bridge of incidents. This is the how that you so wisely surrendered to a higher power. A bridge of incidents is a series of events, conversations, encounters, and opportunities that appear in your life, seemingly by chance. Individually, each event may seem normal, natural, or like a simply coincidence. But when you look back after your desire has manifested, you will see with breathtaking clarity that these events were not random at all. They were a perfectly orchestrated, divinely intelligent sequence. A bridge leading you step by step from your old reality to the new one you had claimed in your imagination. The person living in the end of being a successful business owner might get a random phone call from an old colleague who happens to mention a new market opportunity, which then leads to meeting the perfect investor at a social gathering they almost didn't attend. This is the universe in motion. This is the how. Your only job is to remain faithful to your inner state, to live in the end, and to walk across the bridge as it appears before you, taking the inspired actions when you are guided to do so. Living in the end is the culmination of this entire teaching. It is the state where the practice becomes your personality, where the technique becomes your identity. It is the realization that the feeling is the secret. And by changing our core assumption about ourselves and persisting in that new state of being, we compel the world to conform to our new inner reality. This is not just a method for acquiring things. It is a path to self-realization. It is the discovery that you are not a puppet of fate, but the operatic power and wisdom of God, creating your world from the inside out. To truly stabilize in this new, high vibrational state, however, we must often first do some house cleaning. To move into a magnificent new home, we must be willing to discard the old, broken furniture and accumulated trash of the past. Very often, the heavy anchor that keeps us tied to our old story, that prevents us from truly living in the end, is the weight of old resentments, grievances, and the chains of unforgiveness. To be truly free to create our new reality, we must first learn the profound and liberating art of setting ourselves and others free from the past, as we endeavor to fully embody the state of our wish fulfilled. To truly live in the end, we often find ourselves tethered to the past by invisible chains. We try to feel abundant, but the memory of a past betrayal keeps us feeling bitter. We try to feel loved, but the sting of an old rejection keeps our heart guarded. These chains are forged from the heavy metal of resentment, grievances, and unforgiveness. We have been taught to think of forgiveness as a noble, moral duty we perform for the benefit of the person who wronged us, often a duty that feels unjust and painful. But this is a profound misunderstanding of its true power. Forgiveness, in the context of reality creation, is not a moral act for others. It is the ultimate act of enlightened self-interest. It is the pragmatic and powerful tool you use to set yourself free. You do not forgive to release them. You forgive to release you from the prison of your own past. To hold on to resentment is the spiritual equivalent of drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. When you harbor a grievance, you are the one who suffers. On a vibrational level, feelings of anger, bitterness, blame, and resentment are among the lowest and densest frequencies you can inhabit. As long as you choose to marinate in these toxic emotions, you are broadcasting this low-frequency signal to the universe. And, by the immutable law of attraction, you can only attract more circumstances, people, and events that will give you more things to feel resentful and angry about. You are also creating a powerful, psychic, energetic cord that binds you to the very person or event you wish to escape. You are giving that person free rein in the sacred space of your mind, allowing them to dictate your emotional state long after the event has passed. You are chained to the very past that is preventing your new future from being born. The act of forgiveness, then, is you picking up a pair of energetic scissors and decisively cutting that cord. It is a declaration of your own sovereignty. It is you saying, with quiet authority, I will no longer allow my precious creative energy in this present moment to be consumed by a memory from the past. I reclaim my power. I take my energy back. What you did no longer has the power to define my emotional state. I release you, not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. Notice that this entire process has nothing to do with the other person. They do not need to apologize. They do not need to change. They do not even need to know that you have forgiven them. This is a purely internal transaction, a private act of liberation that you perform for your own benefit, so that you can be free to create the new reality you desire. Let us walk through a simple but profound practice of forgiveness. Find a quiet time and space where you can relax without interruption. Close your eyes, and in your imagination, bring the person you wish to forgive to stand before you. Allow yourself to acknowledge the pain that was caused. Do not try to deny it or pretend it didn't happen. Then, speaking to them silently in your mind, say the words, I forgive you, and I release you. I release you from my past. I set you free from any debt I thought you owed me. The story is over. Then, and this is crucial, you must also forgive yourself. Say, and I forgive myself for holding on to this pain for so long, for allowing this memory to poison my present. Finally, visualize the energetic cord that connected you both, and see it dissolving into pure white light. Or see yourself taking a pair of golden scissors and snipping it cleanly. Feel the immense sense of relief, of lightness, of freedom that comes as you watch them and the old story drift away, leaving you whole and at peace in your present moment. A beautiful and powerful systematized version of this practice comes from the ancient Hawaiian tradition of Ho'oponopono, brought to popular awareness in the audiobook Zero Limits by Dr. Joe Vitale. This practice is based on the principle of taking 100% responsibility for everything that appears in your reality. The technique involves directing 4 simple phrases toward the divine, while holding the painful memory or person in your mind. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. You are apologizing for the unconscious programming within you that co-created the painful experience. The story of Dr. Ihaliakala Hulen, as told in the book, is a stunning testament to this power. As a clinical psychologist assigned to a ward for the criminally insane, a place so violent and dangerous that staff turnover was constant, he performed a miracle. He never held a single therapy session with a patient. Instead, he would sit in his office, review each patient's file, and practice Ho'oponopono on himself. He would heal the part of him that had attracted and perceived this reality. Over several years, the seemingly miraculous occurred. The most violent patients became calm. Medications could be reduced. And eventually, so many were healed and released that the entire high-security ward was shut down. He healed the world by healing himself. Perhaps the most advanced and reality-altering form of forgiveness was taught by Neville Goddard. He called it revision. Neville taught that the past is not fixed. It only exists as a memory, a collection of images and feelings in your imagination now, because it only exists in your imagination. You have the power to go back and revise it at the end of your day, and you review its events in your mind's eye. If there was any scene, conversation, or event that was unpleasant, you do not accept it as final. You rewrite it. You replay the scene in your imagination exactly as you wished it had happened. You transform the harsh words into loving ones. You turn the disappointing outcome into a triumphant success. You change the feeling of the memory from pain to joy. You loop this revised scene over and over until it feels so real that it supplants the original memory. This act of revision does two things. Firstly, it robs the past event of its power to hurt you in the present. Secondly, Neville claimed, by changing the cause in your imagination, you can mysteriously change its effects, both in your psychology and sometimes even in your outer world. It is the ultimate form of forgiveness, because it doesn't just pardon the past, it redeems it. Forgiveness, therefore, is not the sentimental, weak act our ego often believes it to be. It is a powerful, strategic, and essential tool for conscious creation. It is the energetic cleansing that clears the slate for a new reality. By releasing the heavy anchors of resentment and bitterness, by cutting the cords that bind us to a painful past, and even by courageously rewriting our history through the art of revision, we untether ourselves from the old story. We become energetically clean, clear, and available to fully and completely move into the new house of our wish fulfilled. As we become more adept at these powerful practices, as we cleanse the past, master our inner states, and learn to live in the end, a subtle and beautiful transformation occurs. The feeling of effort begins to fall away. The techniques that once felt like a conscious discipline, like something we were actively doing, begin to dissolve into the very fabric of who we are. This is the graceful and sacred evolution from doing to being, as we diligently cleanse the baggage of the past through forgiveness and master the art of living in the end. A beautiful and subtle transformation begins to unfold. The spiritual practices that once required conscious effort and stern discipline start to feel less like chores and more like second nature. The journey reaches a point of graduation. The scaffolding of technique, which was so necessary to construct our new state of being, can begin to be dismantled. For the building itself has become structurally sound. This is the sacred and graceful evolution from a state of doing to a state of being. It is the shift from consciously applying the law to unconsciously embodying the law. The moment the practice is no longer something you do, but something you are. In the initial stages of this path, a great deal of conscious effort is required. This is the doing phase. It takes discipline to interrupt a lifetime of negative thinking and choose a new thought. It takes commitment to perform your Sats ritual every single night, even when you are tired. It requires vigilance to maintain a mental diet and to turn your attention away from the seeming evidence of your senses. This stage can feel like a struggle, like learning a difficult new skill that goes against all your old habits. It is important to honor this phase and not to be discouraged by its difficulty. You are breaking the powerful momentum of decades of unconscious programming. This conscious labor is absolutely necessary. It is the work of tilling the hard soil, pulling the stubborn weeds, and planting the new seeds with deliberate intention. You cannot skip this stage. for it is the foundation upon which the temple of being will be built. As you persist with this conscious doing, you enter a transitional phase, a period of emerging grace. Things begin to get easier. You find that maintaining a positive and high vibrational state is no longer a constant battle. It starts to become your natural disposition. Negative thoughts may still occasionally arise, but they have lost their power over you. You notice them with a detached amusement and dismiss them almost automatically. Like brushing away a fly. You will also find that you don't have to try so hard to manifest your desires. You might have a fleeting thought of wanting something, and then, without any formal technique, it appears in your world with surprising speed. This is the phase where deep, unshakable faith is born. You are no longer just believing in the law. You are consistently experiencing its fruits. This growing ease is a sign that the new programming is taking hold, that the path you have been carving is becoming a well-worn road. Eventually, this transitional grace blossoms into the final, sublime state of being. In this state, you have so completely identified with your true nature as consciousness and with your new self-concept that the techniques themselves become largely redundant. You no longer need to constantly try to feel peaceful. You simply are peace. It is the ground of your being. You no longer strive for abundance. You embody the consciousness of infinite supply. And so opportunities and resources flow to you as a natural and unsurprising consequence of who you are. The law of attraction ceases to be a tool that you use, because you now understand that you are the law in operation. Your desires manifest almost as soon as they are formed. Not because you performed a powerful ritual, but because your entire being is perpetually tuned to the frequency of creation and absolute allowance. Love, joy, and peace are no longer goals to be achieved. They are recognized as the very substance of your consciousness, which was merely obscured by the clouds of the ego. A perfect analogy for this entire evolutionary process is learning to drive a car. Think of the learner driver. This is the stage of doing. Their mind is on high alert, consciously processing every single action. Their hands grip the steering wheel with white knuckles. They are thinking, okay, check the mirror. Now indicate. Now press the clutch down. Now move the gear stick. Now slowly release the clutch while gently pressing the accelerator. It is a clunky, stressful, and mentally exhausting process. Every action is a deliberate and often awkward effort. Now, think of an experienced driver who has been driving for 20 years. This is the state of being. They get into the car, perhaps while having a relaxed conversation or listening to an audiobook. They navigate complex traffic, change gears smoothly, and reach their destination safely, all while their conscious mind is focused elsewhere. The thousands of hours of conscious practice have so deeply integrated the skill into their subconscious mind that it has become automatic, effortless, and graceful. They are not doing driving. They simply are a driver. In the same way, after enough conscious practice, the principles of creation become so integrated into your being that you live them automatically, without thought or effort. The ancient Chinese sage Lao Tzu, in the timeless wisdom of the Tao Te Ching, gave a name to this state of effortless mastery. He called it Wei Wu Wei, which is often translated as action without action or effortless doing. This does not mean laziness or complete passivity. It means acting in perfect, spontaneous harmony with the natural flow of the universe. With the Tao, it is the archer who does not try to hit the target, but who becomes so one with the bow, the arrow, and the target that the arrow releases itself and finds its mark without strain. It is the boatman who does not fight the current but uses its power to guide his vessel with ease. When you have stabilized in the state of being, your actions become a form of Wei Wu Wei. They are no longer forced by the desperate will of the ego, but are inspired by your deep, intuitive connection to the whole. You find that you accomplish more while striving less, because the infinite power of the universe is flowing through you without the friction of your own resistance. This serene state of being, this alignment with the effortless flow of the Tao, is a profound homecoming. It is the experience of living life from your true center. From the peaceful core of consciousness itself, life ceases to be a series of problems to be solved or a battle to be won. And it becomes a graceful dance, a joyful expression of the divine. When one truly stabilizes in this state, when the noisy clamor of doing has finally quieted and only the deep, resonant peace of being remains, you are finally ready to ask the ultimate question and to receive the ultimate answer. You are ready to witness the final unveiling, to meet the unadorned, unconditioned reality of your own true self. Having journeyed from the conscious effort of doing to the effortless grace of being, we arrive at the quiet center of our own existence. We have peeled back the layers of the mind, the personality, and the ego, and now we stand before the final veil, the ultimate purpose of this entire journey. Beyond manifesting any specific desire, is to answer the most fundamental question a human being can ask. The question, posed by sages and mystics for millennia: who am I? The answer is not found in a new belief, a new identity, or a new philosophy. It is found in the direct recognition of what has been here all along, patiently waiting beneath the noise of the personality. This is the unveiling of your true self. It is essential to understand that this true self is not something you build, achieve, or earn. It is not a future potential. It is an ever-present reality. The spiritual journey is not a process of attainment, but a process of recognition. It is a journey of subtraction, of letting go of all the false things we believe ourselves to be, so that what remains, what is essential and eternal, can be revealed. Imagine that your true self is the sun, eternally radiant, silent, and powerful. Your personality, your thoughts, your memories, your beliefs, and your ego are the clouds. From the perspective of the earth, it may seem that the sun comes and goes, that some days are bright and some are dark and cloudy. But from the perspective of the sun itself, it never changes. It is always shining. The clouds merely create a temporary illusion of its absence. All the spiritual practices we have discussed, meditation, mindfulness, self-inquiry, are simply methods for creating gaps in the cloud cover, allowing the light of the sun that you are to shine through into your own awareness. When these gaps appear, what do we find? What are the qualities of this true self? This pure, underlying consciousness. The first quality is a profound and unshakable peace. This is not the peace that comes from having a perfect, problem-free life. It is the deep, silent peace that exists underneath all the problems. It is the stillness of the deep ocean that is untouched by the raging storm on the surface. It is a peace that the world cannot give, and therefore cannot take away. The second quality is unconditional love. This is not the conditional, transactional love of the ego, which loves because of certain qualities and withdraws its love when those qualities change. This is the very fabric of being. It is a radiant, open, and allowing presence that embraces all of reality, the light and the dark, without judgment or resistance. The third quality is causeless joy. This is not the fleeting happiness that depends on getting what you want. It is a quiet, bubbling sense of delight that arises from the simple fact of being alive. It is the joy of existence itself, independent of any external cause. And finally, the fourth quality is infinite creativity. This silent, empty space of the true self is not a void. It is the womb of all possibility, the field of infinite potential from which all inspiration, all solutions, and all new creations are born. For the ego, the personal sense of me, this unveiling can feel terrifying. The ego is a construct of thoughts, memories, and boundaries. It thrives on definition, on comparison, on its story. When it looks into the vast, silent, boundless space of the true self, it sees its own dissolution, its own death. It cannot find a foothold. It cannot define itself. And so it panics. This is the experience many mystics call the dark night of the soul. It is the moment the caterpillar feels it is dying, unaware that it is about to become a butterfly. This perceived death of the ego is not an end, but the greatest liberation imaginable. It is the shedding of a tight, restrictive, and painful identity. It is the end of the exhausting struggle to defend and enhance a fictional self, and the rebirth into an authentic life lived from the truth of your being. The most direct path to this recognition, taught by great Indian sages like Ramana Maharshi and Nisargadatta Maharaj, is the practice of self-inquiry, centered on that core question, who am I? The practice is deceptively simple. You sit in silence and you pose the question to yourself. Internally, the mind will immediately rush in with its conditioned answers. I am my name. I am my profession. I am this body. I am my thoughts. With each answer that arises, you recognize that it is something that you observe. It is an object appearing in your awareness. You then gently discard it and ask, but who is it that is aware of this? Who is aware of the body? Who is aware of the thought? Who is aware of the feeling? This line of inquiry relentlessly pushes your attention backward, away from the objects of perception, toward the ultimate, unobservable subject, the silent, empty witness in which all experience happens. You cannot see this witness, because it is the seer. You cannot know it as an object, because it is the ultimate knower. You can only be it. By stripping away all that you are not, you fall back into what you are. When you begin to stabilize in this recognition, your entire way of living in the world is transformed. You begin to live from the true self, rather than for the ego. Your actions are no longer motivated by a needy desire to get something from the world, a need for approval, for security, for love. Instead, your actions become an inspired and joyful expression of the peace and love that you already are. You become a calming presence for others, because you are no longer trying to get anything from them. You interact with life with a newfound sense of lightness and playfulness, because you understand that your core being cannot be threatened by any outcome. Life's challenges will still arise. The waves will still crash on the shore, but you now meet them from the unshakable stability of the deep ocean. Rather than the turbulent surface, you are living an authentic life, guided from within by a wisdom and peace that is beyond the comprehension of the mind. This profound homecoming, this unveiling of the true self as the silent witnessing consciousness that animates your individual form, is the discovery of what the great masters called the kingdom of God within. It is the realization that the peace, love, and joy you were seeking in the world were the very substance of your own being all along. But even this monumental realization is not the final step of the journey. It precipitates one final question, one last boundary to dissolve. If my true self is this silent, peaceful, sky-like awareness within me, and if the universe itself is a vast, infinite field of consciousness, what, then, is the real difference between the two? What is the relationship between the sky of consciousness inside of me and the sky of consciousness that contains all of creation? This ultimate inquiry leads us to the final destination of all spiritual seeking, the direct, world-shattering, and exquisitely simple experience of oneness. Having unveiled the true self as the silent, witnessing consciousness at the core of our being, we stand at the precipice of the final, most profound realization of all. We have found the kingdom of God within. We have discovered the peaceful, sky-like awareness that is our essential nature. Now, we must ask the ultimate question: what is the relationship between this inner sky and the vast, infinite sky of the universe itself? Is there a boundary where the consciousness that I am ends, and the consciousness that is God begins? The answer to this question is the final frontier of all spiritual inquiry. It is the dissolution of the last illusion, the ultimate homecoming, the direct and world-transforming experience of oneness. For our entire lives, we have experienced reality from the perspective of a single drop of water, believing ourselves to be separate, fragile, and alone. The spiritual journey, from the perspective of the drop, is a journey of seeking the ocean. But the final realization is a paradox that shatters the mind. The drop does not find the ocean. The drop dissolves, and in that moment of perceived annihilation, it becomes the ocean. It realizes it was never just a drop to begin with. Its separateness was a temporary, fleeting illusion. Its true nature was always the vast, boundless, and eternal expanse of the water. This is not death. It is the ultimate expansion. Your individual awareness is not extinguished. It is liberated from its finite container and merges with the universal awareness it was always a part of. The fear of death, which is the ego's ultimate fear, vanishes in this recognition. For you realize that what you truly are cannot be born and cannot die. You are life itself. This is the end of your spiritual exile and your joyous return to the source. Words are inadequate to describe this non-dual experience. For language itself is a product of a dualistic mind, a tool for separating things into subjects and objects. In our normal state, there is always a me, the subject, looking at a world. The object, there is the seer and the seen, the thinker and the thought. In the state of oneness, this entire structure collapses. There is no longer a me inside, looking at a universe outside. The boundary dissolves. There is only a single, unified, self-luminous field of consciousness experiencing itself. There is no longer a person witnessing a tree. There is only the seamless, unified experience of treeing. The knower and the known have merged into pure, effortless knowing. The mystic poets have tried for centuries to point to this state. They call it the beloved, the void, the great silence, the one. It is the realization that you are not a wave in the ocean. You are not even the ocean itself. You are the water that takes the form of both the wave and the ocean. You are the awareness in which the entire cosmos, including the story of your own life, arises and subsides. In this state of ultimate unity, what becomes of love? Love is transformed from an emotion that a subject feels for an object into the very fabric and substance of reality itself. It is no longer something you give or receive. It is what you are. You realize that the intense longing you felt for God or for a soulmate was the universe's longing for itself. The drop's deep, innate desire to return to the ocean. In the state of oneness, you see that the force that holds the planets in their orbits, the force that causes the flower to bloom, and the love you feel in your heart are all the same energy. It is the fundamental, attractive, and cohesive force of the cosmos, the self-love of the universe for its own magnificent expression. The great Sufi poet Rumi pointed to this when he wrote, "Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it." The spiritual journey is the dismantling of those barriers of the ego, the illusion of separation. When the final barrier falls, you do not find love. You find that you are love, and always have been. A common misconception is that this ultimate realization, this state of enlightenment, means you will become a strange, ethereal being who floats away on a cloud, detached from earthly life. Nothing could be further from the truth. The most famous Zen parable expresses this perfectly. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. On the outside, to the casual observer, very little changes. You still inhabit a human body. You still engage in the ordinary activities of life. You eat when you are hungry. You sleep when you are tired. You work. You maintain relationships. You chop the wood. You carry the water. The world of form and its demands remain. But on the inside, everything has changed. Before enlightenment, it was a stressed and anxious ego, a separate me, that was chopping the wood as a chore, a means to an end. It was a burdened individual carrying the water, feeling its weight and complaining about the effort. After enlightenment, the separate me has dissolved into the background. There is no longer a doer of the deeds, but only the doing itself. Now, it is the universe. It is consciousness itself that is expressing itself through the human form. The chopping of the wood is a divine dance, a meditation in motion. The carrying of the water is a graceful expression of the flow of the Tao. Every mundane act becomes a sacred ritual. Every moment is infused with a deep sense of peace and playfulness. Because the one who was struggling is gone, only the presence of life remains, animating the body with a lightness and grace that was previously impossible. Our great journey through these 20 principles has brought us full circle. We began by seeking God as an external power and have ended by discovering that we are an expression of that very power. We moved from seeing ourselves as separate fragments to recognizing our place in a unified, vibrational universe. We learned the laws of creation through thought and feeling. We mastered the inner world of the subconscious, and we learned to speak the language of the cosmos. We walked past the dragons of doubt and fear, claimed the divine name of I Am, and rested in the faith of the Sabbath. We learned to live in the end, to cleanse the past, and to evolve from effortful doing to effortless being. This led us to unveil the true self within, and finally, to allow that true self to merge back into the oneness of all that is. This journey, from the illusion of separation to the reality of unity, is the ultimate purpose of human existence. This grand realization is the summit of the mountain of self-discovery. Now, having reached this magnificent peak, we must prepare for our return to the valley. It is time to integrate this profound understanding into our daily lives, to summarize our journey, and to empower ourselves to walk in this world with the grace and authority of who we now know we truly are. We have traveled far on this inner journey, a pilgrimage from the head to the heart. From separation to oneness, we began by daring to question our inherited images of God, moving beyond the concept of a distant king on a throne to embrace the understanding of God as the all-pervading, universal consciousness that is the very substance of our own being. We learned to distinguish the noisy river of the mind from the silent, peaceful riverbed of awareness, recognizing ourselves as the timeless observer behind all of experience. From there, we plunged into the mechanics of creation, discovering that we live in a vibrational universe that responds to the frequency of our thoughts and the magnetic charge of our emotions. We explored the vast, hidden power of the subconscious mind and learned how to impress our desires upon it through focused techniques like scripting and the state akin to sleep. We faced the inner dragons of doubt and fear, and we armed ourselves with the ultimate sword of truth, the divine, creative name, I Am. This journey of empowerment led us to the sacred state of the Sabbath, the peace of letting go, and finally, to the ultimate practice of living in the end, until the very distinction between the Creator and the creation dissolved into the final, blissful realization of oneness. If there is one ultimate truth to take away from our time together, let it be this: the power you have been searching for in the outside world has been your own power all along. The God you were praying to is the very consciousness with which you were praying. Peace is not a place you can travel to. It is the home you return to when you quiet your mind. Love is not something you can get from another. It is the very fabric of your being waiting to be uncovered. And abundance is not a quantity of things you can accumulate. It is the inner recognition of your own infinite, creative nature. The universe is not a separate entity that you must petition for blessings. In the universe is a great mirror, reflecting back to you the truth of who you believe yourself to be. The great audiobooks and spiritual teachings are invaluable maps But you must never forget that you are both the traveler on this journey and the treasure that is waiting to be discovered at its end. Therefore, you are not a victim of your circumstances. You are not a cork bobbing helplessly on the ocean of life. You are the ocean, the power to create, to transform, and to experience a life of boundless joy and freedom does not lie in changing the world, but in changing your conception of yourself. The principles have been explained. The tools have been offered. The path has been illuminated. The great work begins now, not tomorrow. Not after you have read one more book or listened to one more lecture. It begins with your very next breath. It begins with the next thought you choose to think. It begins with the next feeling you choose to cultivate in your heart. You are the creative power in your own universe. The greatest adventure is not the exploration of the cosmos without, but the realization of the cosmos within. Your journey has just begun.